I merely whispered a single sentence into my vegetative wife's ear. Wifey, when you wake up, let's keep our titles separate with my mom. You call her mom, and she'll keep calling you bestie. My vegetative wife was so spooked she practically bolted out of the hospital overnight. It all started because when I went on a blind date, I met an octogenarian lady who said she wanted to find a husband for her vegetative daughter. I saw that this old lady still had her lingering charm, so I figured her daughter definitely wouldn't be too shabby either. The absolute best part was that she not only waived the entire bride price, but she also threw in $1 million dowry. So I reluctantly agreed to the arrangement. But when I actually saw my wrapped-up vegetative wife in the hospital room, I was shook to the core. Wasn't this my mom's long-lost best friend, the absolute goddess of my childhood dreams? After a simple wedding ceremony was held right there in the hospital ward, the relatives all dispersed. At this moment inside the room it was just me and the old lady, Mrs. Elara Vance. The old lady held her daughter's hand and murmured, "Sarah, my sweet, Mom found you a husband. His name is Kaelen, the handsome young type you always liked. Today is your big day." After the old lady finished speaking, she turned her head to look at me, her eyes brimming with tears. "Kaelen, the doctor said Sarah can only hold on for a maximum of 1 month. My own health isn't great either, so from now on, I'll have to trouble you to come and keep her company every day on my behalf." Even though my mood was quite low, no matter how you looked at it, this was basically achieving my childhood dream. So, I nodded my head with a firm attitude. "Don't worry, Auntie. Seraphina is my wife now. I will definitely take good care of her." Hearing you say that puts my mind at ease. My health is poor, so I'll be heading back first. After watching Elara leave, I cast my gaze towards Seraphina on the hospital bed, and looking at her, my heart trembled once again. Thin, too thin, so thin that it radiated a sickly, fragile beauty. And because it was just me and Seraphina in the ward at this moment, and she was still a vegetable, I didn't have so many reservations. I kept chatting while holding her hand, rubbing it continuously. Her little hand was cold, but it felt incredibly comfortable. "Auntie Seraphina, no, wifey Seraphina. You might not believe it, but my mom's name is Beatrice. Do you still remember? She's your classmate, your absolute bestie. You used to come to our house a lot and even carried me in your arms. Later, you moved away because of work, and my mom lost contact with you." I kept talking while paying close attention to Seraphina on the bed. Seeing that she still had absolutely no reaction, I just kept rambling on. "When I was a kid, my mom asked me what kind of wife I wanted to marry when I grew up. Back then, I said I absolutely had to find someone exactly like you. The whole family roared with laughter, saying that by the time I grew up you'd be old. But looking at it now, you haven't aged a bit. You are still so gorgeous." I was talking completely to myself, not noticing at all that Seraphina's eyelids suddenly twitched. But I was still going strong. "Wifey, you absolutely must wake up quickly. You can't just give up. But then again, if you do wake up, how exactly are you going to interact with my mom?" Right after I finished that sentence, Seraphina's finger, which had been held tightly in the palm of my hand, actually twitched. I stood up, beyond shocked. "Holy crap! Wifey, are you about to wake up?" I was both ecstatic and panicking, hurriedly calling for the attending doctor. After doing a thorough checkup, the doctor also revealed an expression of pure disbelief. "The patient has been lying here for 2 months. We've tried every method we could think of before, and nothing worked. Now her limbs finally have a reaction again. By the way, what exactly did you do just now?" Watching the doctor's expression suddenly turn cautious, my old face couldn't help but blush. "Well, about that, I didn't really do anything. Just whispered some sweet, private conjugal nothings." Hearing this, Dr. Percival looked like he had an epiphany. He nodded and continued, "Since your actions just now were effective, you should spend more time talking to her. You might just be able to wake her up. Will this really work? Can she actually hear me?" I was overjoyed. After all, only if Seraphina woke up could my childhood dream truly become a reality. "Theoretically, yes." Dr. Percival nodded. "The damage to your wife's bodily functions isn't severe. The reason she hasn't woken up is that she simply doesn't want to live anymore. As long as you can ignite her will to survive, the chances of her waking up are very high." After seeing the doctor off, I grabbed Seraphina's hand again. Thinking back to how she only reacted when I mentioned my mother just now, I proceeded to ramble on about a whole bunch of stuff. However, this time it had absolutely zero effect. Helpless, I had to change the subject. "Wifey, did you know? At first, when our mom, found me, I thought the old lady was just too pitiful. Plus, I was indeed short on cash, which is why I reluctantly agreed. But do you know how happy I am deep down right now? Not only are you as beautiful as when I was a kid, but your maintenance is top tier." Saying that, I pressed Seraphina's hand against my own cheek. "Right now, I only have one wish, to be a real, actual married couple with you when you wake up." Sure enough, right after I said that sentence, Seraphina's finger twitched slightly. I was wild with joy, and my words grew even more energetic. "Wifey, let me tell you, there are so many young girls outside drooling over my smoking hot body. If you don't wake up, your hubby here will have to let other women get a bargain. This body full of rippling muscles will only be felt up by others." The more I talked, the higher the frequency of Seraphina's finger twitches became. I took all this in, laughing on the inside. At the same time, the words coming out of my mouth got spicier and spicier. "Wifey, you're exactly 40 this year. Will your needs be super strong?" But don't you worry, your hubby right here is strong as an ox. Even going multiple rounds a night is absolutely no problem. As I spoke, I flirtatiously gave Seraphina's palm a little squeeze. It wasn't until the nurse pushed the door open and came in that I gave a few instructions and left the hospital room. After walking out of the hospital, I unprecedentedly called a ride-hailing car. After all, the old lady's $100,000 deposit had already hit my bank account. Sitting in the car, I felt slightly in a daze. Today I originally just wanted to humor my mom and get it over with, never expecting that I would actually marry my mom's bestie. I wonder what my mom's reaction will be when she finds out. But right as I thought of my mom, her phone call actually came through. The moment I picked up, it was a face-to-face barrage of scolding. "Timmy next door is already on his second kid, and you still can't even find a girlfriend." I laughed out of sheer amusement. I can't find a girlfriend? Not only do I have one, she's your bestie, and we even got the marriage certificate. If I wasn't worried about being hacked to pieces by my mom on the street, I really wanted to blurt it out and give her a good shock. After a few seconds of silence, I suddenly thought of something and spoke with an impatient tone. "Mom, just stop setting me up on blind dates. If you actually care, introduce me to a sugar mommy. I seriously don't want to work hard anymore." My mom on the other end of the line was completely baffled. After freezing for half a second, she started scolding again. "Get the hell out of here. Where am I supposed to find you a sugar mommy?" Hearing this, I flashed a wide grin. "You have so many classmates and besties, isn't there a single one who is successful in her career? Just introduce me to a pretty one and we're good." My mom was fuming. "My classmates who married early are almost grandmas by now." "Mom, what if one of your female classmates maintained herself really well, has a great figure and is still single? Rather than letting someone else get the bargain, why not let your own biological son have it? Keep dreaming your broad daylight delusions. Even if there was one, it wouldn't be your turn." "Mom, what if there really is one? If there is, you gotta strike fast. Your mom here absolutely won't stop you." My mom on the other end was so mad she started speaking in aggressive sarcasm. Hearing it reach this point, I immediately hung up the phone. Then, with a smirk pulling at the corner of my mouth, I clicked to save the call recording. "Oh mom, sweet mom, don't blame your son for being sneaky. Who told you to actually have a single and beautiful female classmate?" Early the next morning, after a quick wash, I rushed to the hospital. But my front foot had barely stepped into the hospital when the old lady's phone call came in. "Kaelen, thank you so much. The doctor said Sarah's finger moved yesterday. It's a fantastic start." Elara's voice was filled with sheer excitement. "Auntie, please don't say that. Actually, I should be the one thanking you. I was speaking from the bottom of my heart. After all, the old lady not only gave me a $100,000 deposit, but she also gifted me a gorgeous wife. Even though she was currently lying in bed, I believed everything would get better. I didn't expect that the effect would be this good on the very first day. So from now on, I'll have to trouble you a lot more. As long as Sarah can truly get better, you can ask for however much money you want." Elara's voice was incredibly emotional. Dr. Percival's words had given her renewed hope. "Auntie Elara, I'm already at the hospital. Plus, I am Seraphina's husband now. Taking care of her is my responsibility." "Good, good, good," the old lady said, "good," 3 times in a row. "I didn't misjudge you back then. I'm entrusting Sarah to you from now on." After finishing the call with the old lady, a wave of emotion washed over me. I never thought I'd be a man with a wife now. After my moment of reflection, I arrived at Seraphina's room. "Wifey, your little hubby is here. Did you miss me when you didn't see me last night?" I smoothly sat down next to Seraphina, holding her little hand and talking to myself for a whole bunch of time. Then I turned to look at her, waiting eagerly for a reaction. Unfortunately, she just kept lying there quietly, completely motionless. I didn't give up and continued talking. "Oh right, my mom called me last night. Yes, your bestie Beatrice. She was rushing me to get married again, telling me I have to bring a girlfriend home by the end of the year. I didn't tell her about us getting married. Do you think I should tell her?" After I said this, the eyelids of Seraphina on the bed twitched. Seeing her react, I grinned. "This trick really worked." "Wifey, I saw you move. Does that mean you think I should tell her?" Her finger twitched again. "Looks like you agree. Wow, why is your finger moving so fast?" Seeing Seraphina's finger twitching non-stop, I couldn't help but giggle out loud. "Ha ha ha, wifey, why are you getting so anxious? I was just joking with you. Besides, even if I tell her, I'll definitely wait until you wake up." Hearing me say this, Seraphina's finger finally quieted down. I smiled knowingly. This vintage babe is really interesting. She's not afraid of dying, yet she's afraid of this kind of drama. Speaking of which, I suddenly thought of something and murmured, "Wifey, I don't know what you went through before that made you lose all attachment to this world, but we are already married, and from now on I won't allow you to be like this anymore." I stroked Seraphina's cheek while continuing, "For the rest of our lives we still have a shameless, passionate, and happy life to live." After I said that, I saw Seraphina's cheeks getting redder and redder. The corner of my mouth hooked up, deciding to add some stronger spice. The doctor said massages help vegetative patients recover, and told me to give you a rub down every day. After saying that, I rolled up my sleeves and started giving Seraphina a massage. Half an hour later, I finished a whole routine according to the research I'd done. I let out a long breath before preparing to leave, and right at that moment, Seraphina's finger suddenly twitched again. Seeing this scene, my heart swelled with joy. Wifey, I don't want to leave either. But today's interview is really important. It's an opportunity my best bro fought hard to get for me. Plus, I have to work hard and make money. That way, when you wake up, I can feed you until you're delightfully chubby. After saying that, I grabbed my bag and left quietly. Holy crap, why are you so late? When I rushed to the meeting spot, my best bro Barnaby was already getting a bit impatient. Traffic jam on the way, I randomly explained. You brought your resume and stuff, right? Brought it. By the way, what's the name of the company we are interviewing for again? Seraphina Biological Tech. Duh, Seraphina, I froze. Seraphina? Sarah? At this moment, Barnaby patted my shoulder. What are you spacing out for? Let's go, the HR is getting impatient. 2 hours later, I walked out of the building with Barnaby. I felt a bit deflated because everyone else interviewing with us were PhDs. Barnaby and I were just mere master's students. But just as Barnaby and I walked out of the lobby, in a corner I hadn't noticed, a woman took off her sunglasses and made a phone call. Auntie, guess who I just saw at the company? That night I came to the hospital again. As soon as I entered the hallway, the little nurses at the nurses' station started teasing me. Ooh, here to see your wife again? Yeah, I'm a bit worried about her. The little nurses couldn't help covering their mouths and laughing. Coming so frequently, are you afraid your wife is going to run away? Looking at their gossip-hungry, melon-eating expressions, I just smiled without saying a word and walked quickly into the ward. With practiced ease, I started massaging Seraphina. Wifey, let me tell you some happy news. I got a job, market researcher at Seraphina Biological Tech. Salary is $8,000 a month. Who knew that right after my voice fell, the eyelids of Seraphina on the bed would suddenly twitch? Seeing this, I chatted with even more enthusiasm, staying until 9:30 p.m. before leaving. The next day, Barnaby and I arrived at the company early to go to work. First, we went to HR to handle the onboarding process. But what left us extremely flattered was that the general manager of HR personally handled our paperwork, and his attitude was incredibly friendly. He even adjusted my and Barnaby's base salary to $12,000 and assigned us a private independent office. I sat in my office chair, looking out through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the bustling masses below, and a sense of heroic ambition swelled in my heart. Barnaby, does your cousin have a super high position in the company to be able to get us such amazing treatment? Hearing this, Barnaby gave a tactical cough, but thought to himself, something's wrong here. I saw my cousin outside in the open cubicle area earlier. He's just a regular employee. At this time, I spoke up again. We gotta find a chance to treat your cousin to a meal to properly thank him. Barnaby's mouth twitched, but in the end, he didn't explain anything further. After the first day of training ended, it was already 7 p.m. Barnaby took the subway straight back to campus while I rushed to the hospital like my butt was on fire. Pushing the door to the ward open, I opened my mouth right away. Wifey, I'm here. Did you miss me? But after seeing the situation inside, my face instantly filled with awkwardness. Auntie Elara, Valerie, you guys are all here. Valerie was Seraphina's cousin. When we had the wedding in the ward, the old lady had introduced her to me. The old lady and Valerie exchanged a knowing smile. Kaelen, you and Sarah are already married. You young folks just act however makes you comfortable. It's not like I'm some ancient fossil, the old lady said. Valerie echoed the sentiment. Besides, the better the relationship between you and Sarah, the more helpful it might be for her recovery. I nodded, but still couldn't lift my head out of sheer embarrassment. After chatting simply for a few sentences, the two of them also learned that I had started working and could only come over after getting off work from now on. That's fine, the old lady nodded calmly. Just come whenever you have time. After saying that, she took Valerie and left. Returning to the room, I looked at Seraphina on the bed and poured out my grievances. Wifey, that was so awkward just now. Why didn't you warn me someone was here? I started massaging Seraphina's body as I spoke, my mouth still spouting non-stop flirty nonsense the entire time. Seeing Seraphina's cheeks getting redder and redder, a wicked, mischievous thought suddenly arose in my heart. Wifey, big boobs Sarah, can I give you a kiss? If you don't say anything, I'll take it as a yes. After I stated this request, I clearly saw Seraphina's body actually tremble slightly. But I threw caution to the wind, leaned down, and planted a huge smack on her cheek. After kissing her, I dramatically wiped my mouth as if savoring a fine meal. Wifey, you smell so good! The next day during lunch break, Barnaby invited his cousin out for a nice Sichuan meal downstairs. Upon learning about the treatment the two of us were getting, Cousin Gideon had a deeply depressed expression. He had worked his butt off for 4 years and was only making $12,000. How the hell did these two brats do it? Comparing people truly pisses people off. Faced with mine and Barnaby's words of gratitude, he just awkwardly replied, "It's nothing, we're all bros." After lunch, the three of us returned to the company to continue working. But right after returning to our desks, a female secretary suddenly knocked on the door and came in. Kaelen, Barnaby, come with me for a second. Manager Sterling from the marketing department is looking for you. Half an hour later, Barnaby and I returned to the office, completely bewildered. Barnaby couldn't help but complain, "Is the corporate world always this abstract? The head of the department calls us in, showers us with compliments, and then privately invites us to dinner tonight." I was equally confused. "Looks like we can only go tonight and test the waters." However, during dinner that night, Barnaby and I tried to probe Manager Sterling several times, but he blocked us with the excuse of building bonds, no talking about work. In the end, it wasn't until after downing several bottles of foreign liquor that Sterling finally chuckled and revealed the purpose of this dinner. There was a very rare business trip training opportunity, and he decided to give the spots to us. Upon learning the reasons, I mentally cursed him out. Isn't this delaying me from going to the hospital to see my wife? But on the surface, I still expressed my gratitude along with Barnaby. By the time the dinner ended, it was already past 10 p.m. Barnaby called a car to head back to campus. I, burping with the smell of alcohol, stumbled and jogged my way toward the hospital. When the little nurse on duty saw me arrive, she once again revealed that gossip-loving expression. I ignored her and headed straight for the ward. "Sorry, I'm late today. That manager Sterling at the company seems to have some gross habit. He just wanted me to go on a business trip, but insisted on drinking with us the whole night before telling us." As I spoke, I cupped Seraphina's cheeks and planted another loud smack on her face. After the kiss, I pushed her inward a bit and half lay on the edge of the bed. "Wifey, I don't want to leave tonight. Let me sleep with you, okay?" Perhaps the alcohol was kicking in. I just felt my head spin and subconsciously pulled Seraphina into my arms. Then, wrapped in a fragrant, soft embrace, I fell asleep. I don't know how much time passed. Half dreaming and half awake, I felt someone pushing me, and a remarkably gentle voice rang in my ear. "You brat, you're crushing my hair." The next day I was woken up by the nurse. "I can see you are truly starved for affection. The patient's condition is so unstable right now." Hearing this, my expression looked worse than if I were crying. I drank too much last night." The nurse gave me an "I totally understand" look. "Even though you are husband and wife, you can't just mess around like this. She's still a vegetable, for heaven's sake." Seeing that the more I tried to explain, the darker the paint got, I just gave up and embraced the trash fire. Whatever. After the nurse pushed her cart and left, I looked at Seraphina on the bed with a face full of embarrassment. I was completely sober now. Only after thinking carefully about it did I realize how absurd last night's actions were. Seraphina is a vegetable right now. How could she withstand me tossing her around like that? Crap! What I did was seriously not the behavior of a human being. After finishing my self-reflection, I whispered in Seraphina's ear, "Wifey, I have to go on a business trip. It might take 2 or 3 days before I can come back and see you." After saying that, I planted another kiss on her cheek before reluctantly leaving. When I arrived at the company, Barnaby was already in the office. "Kaelen, where did you run off to last night? Didn't come back all night." I rolled my eyes at him. "Adult stuff. I advise you to ask fewer questions." Barnaby didn't mind, but suddenly got serious. "Kaelen, why do you think Manager Sterling is treating us so well?" "Why?" I stopped stirring my coffee. "Definitely to rope us in. Did you forget? Yesterday your cousin even gave us a heads up, saying that ever since the chairman hasn't shown up for a few months, the company internally split into several factions. The situation is unclear now, and he told us absolutely not to rush into taking sides." "I knew it!" I slapped my thigh. "Looks like we have to actively avoid Manager Sterling from now on. At the very least, we can't let others think we are Sterling's people." 3 days later, inside the marketing department office of Seraphina Biological Tech, Sterling sat in his swivel chair looking quite depressed. He looked at his secretary beside him and spoke with a face full of confusion. Before, in order to suck up to the old lady, I specifically got close to Kaelen and Barnaby, these two newbies. Not only did I treat them to dinner to build rapport, but I also gave them that incredibly rare business trip opportunity. But why, ever since that day, have those two started deliberately distancing themselves from me? At this moment, Secretary Fiona, wearing black pantyhose, crossed her legs. After pondering for a few seconds, she revealed a look of realization. "Mr. Sterling, I understand now. They must be spies planted in our company by the old lady. That's the only way to explain why two newbies would distance themselves from you. They probably have high standards and look down on these petty favors. Maybe we need to increase our efforts." Hearing this, Sterling nodded in sudden realization. "Exactly, the old lady has started making her move. I know what to do next." Meanwhile, inside the high-speed rail station, Barnaby and I, having finished our business trip, walked out of the exit. "Freaking hell, I'm exhausted. This business trip training isn't a cushy job at all," I said, rubbing my aching temples. "This isn't a cushy job. It was 5-star hotels the whole way, and we got to interact with so many important clients." Barnaby curled his lip and continued. "My cousin told me they fight to the death for this kind of opportunity." I nodded, actually knowing this was indeed a sweet gig. It's just that in comparison, I much prefer to spend these 3 days keeping Wifey Seraphina company. At this time, Barnaby rubbed his belly and said, "Let's not talk about work for now. Let's find a place to have a good meal." I waved my hand. "Nah, I have stuff to do. You eat by yourself." Right now, my head was completely filled with Seraphina. 3 days apart felt like 3 autumns, but just as I was about to rush to the hospital, my mom's phone call came in again like the Grim Reaper knocking. "You brat, your Auntie Wang introduced a girl to you yesterday. Make some time to meet her." Another blind date? I almost want to hang up. "Mom, I just started working and I'm super busy right now." "I don't have time for blind dates. It won't delay you. That girl's workplace is quite close to yours. When you get off work, I'll have her wait for you downstairs." I was speechless. "Mom, didn't I tell you before? Unless it's a single, beautiful older lady, don't introduce any young girls to me." "You child, how can you take a joke so seriously?" I saw her photo. The girl is really pretty. She's even a flight attendant. "Mom, I don't want to go on a blind date." I didn't want to waste any more breath and spoke my true thoughts directly. "No, you must go. I'm sending you that girl's contact card right now." After saying that, my mom hung up. Immediately after, my phone received the business card shared by my mom. I clicked on it and took a look. A crystal available worldwide. Good heavens, Mom, do you even want to look at what you are doing? Upon arriving at the hospitals, the moment I stepped into the hallway in front of the ward, the gazes of everyone at the nurse's station collectively locked onto me, and every single one of them had a teasing, mocking expression. I felt a bit weirded out. "Hey, what are you guys looking at?" "Someone won't let us say." A little nurse spoke halfway, then hurriedly shut her mouth. I didn't say anything. They had me so curious. Could it be that Seraphina woke up? Thinking of this, I couldn't help but quicken my pace. Entering the room, Seraphina was still lying quietly on the bed, her breathing steady, looking like nothing much had changed. But I keenly noticed that compared to before the business trip, Seraphina's cheeks were increasingly rosy, and she no longer had that emaciated look from when we first met. Her whole person seemed to be exuding more and more womanly charm. Seeing that everything was moving in a good direction, the corners of my mouth couldn't help but turn up. "Wifey, 3 days without seeing you, did you miss me? Because I missed you so much." While speaking, I stepped forward and started relaxing her muscles. But the moment I put my hands on her, I realized something was off. Seraphina's body was warm, feeling no different from a normal person. Did she really wake up? To verify my guess, after finishing the massage, I boldly used an incredibly teasing technique, lightly and slowly dragging my fingers across her pale, delicate neck and cheeks. Unsurprisingly, Seraphina's body began to tremble slightly, uncontrollably. Her cheeks flushed an intense red like sunset clouds. Seeing this, my heart bloomed with joy. "Baby Seraphina, my vintage babe, you really did wake up. Even if you aren't fully awake, you definitely have consciousness. Could it be she doesn't know how to face me, so she's deliberately pretending to sleep?" But the more she acted like this, the thicker my desire to tease her became. After the massage, I lay down right next to Seraphina. I could clearly feel Seraphina's body tense up noticeably. Pretending not to notice, I pulled her into my embrace, pressing my face against hers, greedily breathing in the air she exhaled. I smiled playfully. "Wifey, the air you breathe out is sweet." I once heard a relationship guru say that 2 people in love can survive just by relying on each other's exhaled carbon dioxide. I used to think that kind of talk was cheesy and gross, but until I met you, I finally believed it. "Wifey, if I didn't have to go to work to make money to support you, I could stick to you 24 hours a day just like this." As I spoke up to this point, my tone suddenly became slightly disappointed. "But right now, I'm a bit worried. If one day you wake up, you absolutely cannot abandon your little hubby, okay?" After saying that, I kissed her right on the lips. The moment our lips met, I clearly felt Seraphina's body tense up again. Immediately after, I heard a soft whimper by my ear, and I could even feel Seraphina seeming to stiffly, clumsily kiss back. I was beyond thrilled. My vintage babe Seraphina is actively kissing back. Does this mean she has psychologically accepted me? At the very least, she isn't fiercely rejecting me. I was beaming inside. If this was true, that would be amazing. I had long anticipated that Seraphina would wake up one day, and ever since then I had been worrying about gains and losses every day, terrified that once she woke up, she wouldn't want me anymore. After all, she is my mom's best friend. I imagine most people would find that very hard to accept. But the fact that she could stiffly cater to my kiss proved that my childhood dream might actually have a shot. As for her not wanting to open her eyes, maybe she just needed time to slowly digest everything. After a long, deep kiss ended, I licked my lips. "Wifey, this seems to be our first official kiss. I love this feeling so much. Let's kiss every day from now on, okay?" Right as my voice dropped, Seraphina's body visibly trembled. I didn't know if it was in resistance or pleasure. I smiled and got out of bed, opening my phone to check the time. "Wifey, it's already past 9. If I don't go back soon, the dorm will lock its doors. Give it some time, and once I move out of the dorm, I can stay with you 24 hours a day. Good night." After planting another smack on Seraphina's cheek, I prepared to leave. But right at this moment, my mom's phone call suddenly came in. Unsurprisingly, it was still rushing me to get married. My head throbbed. After hesitating for half a second, I said, "Mom, let me tell you the truth. Actually, I have a girlfriend." Saying that, I turned my head and glanced at Seraphina on the bed. "You have a girlfriend?" My mom clearly didn't quite believe it. "Why didn't you say so earlier? Are you trying to trick me again?" "I'm not tricking you. She's right next to me. It's just that she's a tiny bit special." I spoke while looking at Seraphina's still slightly flushed cheeks. I was worried you wouldn't agree, so I didn't dare tell you. But the very next second, I was shocked by my mom's words. You want to come over and see her? My mom's words made me involuntarily shiver. I know her personality. Her desire for control is extremely strong, especially when it comes to me finding a girlfriend. If she found out my girlfriend is actually my wife, and her long-lost bestie, Mom would probably delete my account and start a new one overnight. Thinking of this, worried that Seraphina would hear things she shouldn't, I hurriedly ran out of the room. Half an hour later, using the excuse that our relationship isn't stable yet, I finally convinced my mom not to come over for now. My mom was also worried that rushing over abruptly would scare the girl, so she agreed. Only then did I let out a long sigh of relief. But I also knew this was all temporary. Who knows, maybe in a little while, Mom would want to meet her again. Thinking of the scene where my mom discovers her bestie turned into her daughter-in-law, I couldn't help but shudder. But to completely realize my childhood dream, I still had to carry through with my original plan. I needed to speed up making Seraphina accept me, while simultaneously managing my mom's psychological expectations as much as possible. If the raw rice could be cooked into mature rice, consummating the marriage, that would be even better. That way, even if Mom couldn't accept it, she'd have no choice. The next day, Sunday, Barnaby and I went near the company and rented 2 small apartments. As for why it was 2 small apartments, it was because that dog Barnaby was preparing to move in with his PhD girlfriend. After signing the contract, Barnaby went to find his girlfriend while I prepared to go to the hospital. At this moment, my mood was fantastic. Renting a place outside the campus meant I didn't have to go back to the dorm every day. Even if I wanted to spend the whole night at the hospital keeping my wifey Seraphina company, it was completely doable. But when I got to the room, sitting by the bed was a white-haired old lady. Just as I thought I had walked into the wrong room, a nurse pushed a cart in. Seeing me, she looked confused. "Why are you here again? Your wife already checked out." "Checked out?" My eyes widened in pure disbelief. "You didn't know?" The little nurse looked genuinely surprised. For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. After pondering for a while, I gritted my teeth and asked, "That's not right. My wife was lying in bed for so long. Even if she woke up, it's impossible for her to check out immediately after waking up, right? Your wife woke up 4 days ago. It was the night you stayed over." She really woke up. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I get it. So when did my wife do the discharge paperwork? Just this morning. I think it was her cousin who came to process it. Her body hasn't fully recovered yet. Why didn't you guys stop her? I was a bit angry. Partly angry she didn't tell me, partly angry she wasn't taking care of her own health. We tried. But her attitude was incredibly firm. She insisted her family push her out in a wheelchair. After saying this, the little nurse muttered under her breath, "Those who know would say she's being discharged. Those who don't would think she's on the run." If the nurse hadn't said anything, it would have been fine. But the moment she said it, I instantly understood what happened. It was definitely because last night, right in front of her, I told my mom on the phone that I had a girlfriend, and she must have heard that my mom was coming to see her. She definitely took it seriously, which was why she ignored her health and ran away overnight. Seeing me frozen in place, the nurse continued, "But your wife's bodily functions have almost recovered. Resting well at home will also lead to a full recovery." I snapped out of it and said, "That's good then. Do you have my wife's contact info?" The little nurse paused for a second, then rolled her eyes at me speechlessly. "You're a funny guy, your own wife, and you're asking me for her contact info?" After leaving the hospital, I stood at the intersection, not knowing where to go. I had called the old lady a few times just now, but none of them connected. This left my heart feeling incredibly empty. Originally, I had planned to take advantage of the weekend to relax her muscles and clean her body. Now, not only had my plans fallen through, but even the old lady, the only person I could use to contact Seraphina, was temporarily unreachable. Just as I was wandering aimlessly down the street, the old lady's phone call suddenly came in. "Hello, is this Kaelen? I'm Mrs. Elara Vance." "Hello, Auntie Elara. I'm listening." At this moment, I was extremely nervous, my voice even carrying a hint of a tremble. "Kaelen, I don't have the heart to keep hiding it from you anymore. Actually, Sarah woke up 4 days ago, but she wouldn't let me tell you. But I don't know what got into her today. Even though she hasn't fully recovered, she insisted on checking out. We couldn't argue with her, so we brought her home. I hope you don't blame her." "I don't blame her! I don't blame her! I'm too happy to blame her!" "Auntie, can I see her?" I blurted out the words I wanted to say the most. The old lady on the other end of the line was silent for a few seconds, then started giving a non sequitur response, thanking me for my dedication during this time. I repeated my request. As a result, the old lady deflected the topic again, saying she would transfer the remaining $900 in compensation to me later. Hearing the old lady's distinctly strictly business attitude, my heart went half cold. Is it over between me and Seraphina just like this? Thinking of this, my attitude became resolute. "Auntie, I don't want the remaining $900,000. The old lady's voice was full of surprise. "Why is that?" "Auntie, let me tell you the truth. After spending day and night together during this time, I've fallen in love with Seraphina. I want to try and continue seeing her." The old lady on the phone fell into silence once again. A few seconds later, she spoke faintly. "Young man, Don't casually throw around words like and love. Feelings aren't that cheap. Besides, are you sure you don't want the 900,000? You seem to be quite short on cash, aren't you? Auntie, I'm sure. I truly like Seraphina. Can you tell me where she is right now? Seeing my firm attitude, the old lady finally spoke slowly. Kaelen, let me ask you seriously. Do you really want to be with Sarah? After all, she is 20 years older than you. Hearing the old lady's tone seem to loosen up a bit, I threw everything on the line. Really, and I also have an unspeakable reason. If we truly end up together in the future, you will know. The old lady was startled, then said, I will pass your request on to her. Wait for me for a moment. After saying that, the old lady hung up the phone. She turned her head to look at Seraphina, beside her, whose eyes were wide as saucers. Sarah, you heard everything, right? I think this kid is pretty good. How about you guys try dating? No! Seraphina's head shook like a rattle drum. Mom, how old is he? At my age, I could be his mother. If we really get together, what would other people think of me? But even though Seraphina said that, her mind couldn't help but conjure up the scene of me kissing her that day. Before she knew it, her pretty face was as red as a ripe apple. Seeing this, the old lady suddenly remembered the last thing I said. Something's wrong. There is definitely something wrong with these two. But she didn't rush to expose it, instead saying calmly, being together is between the two of you. Why do you care what other people say? Seraphina snapped back to reality. Mom, stop trying to persuade me. He's really too young. But only Seraphina knew that this was just an excuse. The most important thing was, I am the son of her best friend, Beatrice. All right then I'll go reject him and find a lawyer to sign the divorce papers. Saying that, Elara pulled out her phone to make a call. But right at the moment the call connected, Seraphina snatched the phone away and hung it up. Mom, don't be in such a rush. Give me some time to think about it, okay? She didn't know why, but the moment the old lady picked up the phone, Seraphina's heart suddenly felt a sharp twinge of sourness. Seeing this, Elara wasn't in a hurry either, just watching her daughter with a knowing, silent smile. Seraphina blushed under her gaze, but her mouth remained stubborn. I just think divorcing like this is a bit cruel to him. How about this, you tell him that we won't see each other for now. For a period of 30, Seraphina paused suddenly. No, 10 days. Let's give each other 10 days to think it over. Elara watched her daughter playing ostrich and finding an out for herself, and simply nodded with a smile. Then, she dialed my number. I hurriedly asked about the situation, as nervous as if I were awaiting a sentencing verdict. The old lady's voice, however, was very steady. Sarah says she still can't accept the age gap between you two, so she hopes you can give each other 10 days. Don't make any rash decisions. 10 days? My originally suspended heart was still suspended. After thinking for a moment, I spoke earnestly. Auntie, don't worry. Although I'm young, I'm about to graduate with my master's. I'm not some reckless kid anymore. All right. Hearing you say that puts me at ease. Elara prepared to hang up, but I started listing off a barrage of instructions about things that were good for Seraphina's recovery. Seeing that I had been rambling for over 2 minutes with no end in sight, the old lady interrupted me, caught between laughter and tears. After ending the call, Elara had a smile on her lips. Daughter, did you hear that? I think this little hubby of yours truly has you in his heart. Although Seraphina still refused to admit it verbally, the slight upward curve of her lips had already betrayed her. Mom, I know, you're so naggy. Looking at her daughter bickering with her, Elara felt as if they had returned to a few years ago, before her daughter got depression. On the other side, I returned to the dorm. I was supposed to pack my things and move into the apartment, but right now I couldn't muster an ounce of energy. How is this 10 days? This is clearly 10 days of a wifeless prison sentence. I just sat there spacing out until 5 p.m. when I received a message from my cousin Chloe. Cousin, I'm at your campus. Hurry up and roll out here to treat me to dinner. Chloe is 18 this year, a freshman at the neighboring Normal University. Because the two schools are adjacent, she often came over to hang out at my campus. When I dawdled my way over, I saw Chloe glaring at me with deep resentment. Cousin, do you have no shame? Making the campus belle wait here for so long. I looked left and right, finally looking down at Chloe. Campus belle? Where? Chloe puffed out her cheeks and stood on her tiptoes. Me, duh! I looked disdainful. Self-proclaimed, right? What kind of campus belle is 1.5 meters tall? You? Who are you calling 1.5 meters? I'm 1.53 meters! Chloe's eyes widened in fury. I didn't continue messing with her, taking her to a barbecue joint near the school. When plate after plate of grilled meat was brought up, Chloe swallowed her saliva and said in shock, Holy cow. Cousin, did you hook a sugar mommy? This is the first time in all these years you've been this generous. All right, less nonsense. Tell me, what exactly are you here for? Chloe knew my financial situation best. She usually wouldn't ask me to treat her to meals, so her coming over this time meant there was an 80% chance my mom had given her a mission. Chloe fussed with the barbecue and said, I missed you, so I came to see you. Is that a crime? I didn't waste words. I took out my phone and sent her a $500 red packet. Upon receiving the red packet, Chloe's attitude did a complete 360. Auntie said you got a girlfriend. She gave me $200 to come probe for intel. Seeing Chloe taking money to do a job and selling out my mom this quickly, I couldn't help but knock her on the head. Don't knock! I'm already short enough. The little girl pushed me away, super annoyed. I rolled my eyes at her speechlessly. Spit it out. What did you find out? Bro, you definitely got dumped by this new girlfriend of yours, right? How do you know? I asked strangely. Even though I wasn't technically dumped by Seraphina, it was true that I couldn't see her for a while. I didn't even need to probe. Look at your depressed face. Even Amumu, the sad mummy from League of Legends, isn't as sad as you. Bro, hurry up and tell me. What does my ex-sister-in-law look like? What's her major? Is she pretty? Chloe fired off questions like a machine gun. Stop asking. I glared at her, not planning to say more. Chloe pouted and threatened. Fine, I won't ask. It's just that on Auntie's side I might just… Before she could finish, I interrupted her directly. Fine, you win. Saying that, I took out my phone and sent her another $500 red packet. Chloe's eyes narrowed into happy little slits. Bro, then how do I report back to Auntie? Just say my girlfriend is very pretty and very mature, she just looks a few years older than me. And also say we just started dating, so the relationship isn't super stable yet. The reason I said this was to indirectly give my mom a psychological vaccination. After dinner, I walked alone on the road back to the dorm. When passing by the small grove that served as the campus dating holy land, I felt a sudden inexplicable surge of irritation. So, I cleared my throat and yelled into the grove at the top of my lungs, "Run! The teachers from the disciplinary committee are coming!" With that one shout, pairs of wild lovebirds frantically scrambled out of the darkness in a mad dash. Seeing this scene, my heart felt a lot better. Early the next morning, my mom's phone call came again. Only this time, her voice was much softer. I grinned. Looks like the money I gave Chloe wasn't spent in vain. Otherwise, Mom's emotional state definitely wouldn't be this stable. But I still asked knowingly, Mom, did that brat Chloe tell you about my girlfriend? Well, Mom hesitated. She did mention it to me yesterday. What did she say? She said her brother found a really pretty girlfriend, and she looks much more mature than you. Hearing this, my heart couldn't help but jump a beat. Then I pretended to be annoyed. That Chloe is really something. How could she just blab everything to anyone? But Mom, my girlfriend is a tiny bit older than me. You wouldn't mind, would you? Sigh. Why would Mom mind? Besides, being a bit older means she knows how to take care of you better. Hearing this, I found an excuse to hang up and once again smoothly saved the audio recording. Wifey, oh wifey, I've made so many preparations for you. Please don't let my efforts go to waste. I muttered to myself and went out to work. When I got to the company and entered the office, I saw Barnaby leaning back in his office chair, his legs propped right up on the desk, flipping through documents and humming a tune. I frowned. We're at work. Can you be a bit less arrogant? Barnaby smirked. What's there to be afraid of? We have an independent office. If anyone comes, they'll knock first. Seems to make sense. So I copied his posture and propped my legs on the desk. Have to admit, this pose was pretty damn comfortable. Then I started absent-mindedly looking through the company's documents. But as I was looking, I suddenly let out a loud shout. Barnaby was so scared he fell straight out of his chair, grimacing in pain. I, however, was clutching the document in my hand as if I had seen a ghost. Our corporate group's chairman is named Seraphina? She actually has the exact same first and last name as my vintage babe. My heart was a jumble of mixed feelings. I decided to call my mother-in-law to ask what was going on, but the call couldn't connect at all. It seemed that before the 10-day period was up, I wouldn't be able to reach them. Just as I couldn't help but sigh, a clamor of noise came from outside. I asked around and found out it was the CEO coming to inspect the work. Without a second word, I rushed over there. I saw a crowd of people surrounding a woman in a white tailored skirt suit. I focused my eyes and realized this person was not my wife, Seraphina. This let me heave a massive sigh of relief. Great. There isn't an extra status gap between me and my wife. However, after I turned to leave, that woman told the surrounding employees, I am merely exercising authority on behalf of the chairman while she is absent from the company. From now on, just call me CEO Valerie. Back in the office, my mind was full of Seraphina, especially the Seraphina who had clearly woken up but blushed and pretended to sleep, letting me kiss her. 10 days! I still have to wait 10 days for the verdict. This is simply the greatest torture on earth. The more I thought about it, the worse I felt. I slapped the desk and decided to take the afternoon off to go clear my head. My leave request process was incredibly smooth. Just like when we first joined, HR manager Sterling was still incredibly polite. Not only did he approve it without even asking the reason, but he also very caringly asked if there was anything he could help with. I laughed bitterly inside. I miss my wife. Can you help with that? After leaving the company, I hailed a taxi. Driver, to Nengrin Temple. Meanwhile, on the other side, Seraphina was staring blankly at a book in her hands, completely failing to notice that her cousin Valerie had already walked up to her. Valerie reached out and took the book away. Sarah, is this book not good? Seraphina was startled. Cousin, I haven't finished reading it yet. Valerie had a teasing look. You've been reading all morning, and the page number hasn't even changed. I don't think you're looking at a book, you're looking at someone's face in your head, aren't you? Seraphina instantly blushed. Cousin, what nonsense are you talking about? I wasn't looking at Kaelen. I didn't even say who the someone was, and you already outed yourself. Valerie leaned in with a mischievous smile. How about I take you to the place you want to go the most? Seraphina's eyes lit up, but she lowered her head a bit shyly. Go where? The temple, of course. Valerie poked her forehead. Didn't you used to love going to the temple? You said it was peaceful there. Or, are you wanting to go to a certain someone's? Seraphina cut off Valerie's words, blushing furiously. All right, cousin, if you say one more word, I'm really going to ignore you. Even though Seraphina was nearing 40, because she was so well maintained and had a pure heart, acting spoiled like this made her look just like a girl in her 20s. It made Valerie burst out laughing. All right, I'll stop teasing you. Before, I went to Nengrin Temple with Auntie to burn incense for you. Now that you're awake, it's indeed time to go fulfill the vow. Nengrin Temple is located on Baiyun Mountain in the eastern part of the city. Because the wishes made there are known to come true, the incense offerings have always been very prosperous. At this moment, Valerie brought Seraphina to the foot of the mountain, pushing her wheelchair toward the temple. Looking at the refreshing scenery around them, Seraphina closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and revealed a satisfied smile. Cousin, I was really silly before. I actually didn't realize that being alive is such a beautiful thing. Hearing this, Valerie couldn't help but sigh. When Auntie said she wanted to find you a partner to wash away the bad luck, I thought she was messing around. Looking at it now, that move was truly the right one. It's just this in the future. Thinking of this, Valerie shook her head, tossing the worries out of her mind. No matter what happened in the future, as long as her cousin was happy right now, it was totally worth it. The sisters chatted as they walked along the path. Unknowingly, they could already see the main gate of Nengrin Temple. Right at this moment, Valerie suddenly spotted a familiar silhouette. Isn't that your little hubby? What? Which one is he? Seraphina was startled, but quickly grew flustered. Cousin, let's go. I can't let him see me. Yet, even as she said that, Seraphina couldn't help but crane her neck, searching through the crowd. From the time they got married until now, she had never seen what I actually looked like. Even though she had seen the photo on the marriage certificate, seeing the real person in the flesh was a totally different thing. Toward this little hubby who had fallen from the sky, Seraphina's feelings were actually extremely complex. On one hand, a quiet affection had already sprouted in her heart, but on the other hand, the gap in their status and age made her hesitate, unable to take that step forward even now. Just as she was searching for my figure, Valerie was pushing the wheelchair, getting ready to leave. Seraphina panicked. Cousin, what are you doing? Didn't you tell me to go? Valerie rolled her eyes at her cousin in exasperation. Hearing this, Seraphina bit her lower lip. It took a long while before she spoke again. I want to secretly take a look at him first. Valerie smiled knowingly, pushing Seraphina toward the back door of the temple. And over here, I was standing in front of the Buddha statue, eyes closed, hands clasped together. During this time, I had been constantly suffering from anxiety. I was grateful that Seraphina woke up so quickly, yet terrified that she wouldn't want to continue this marriage. Filled with an unbearable anxiety that I couldn't alleviate, I could only pin my hopes on the divine. Outside the door at this moment, Seraphina was anxiously pulling on Valerie's arm. Cousin, get a little closer. I want to hear what he's saying. Valerie looked helpless, quietly pushing the wheelchair to hide just outside the hall. At this time, my voice drifted out. Buddha, I beg you to bless my wife Seraphina so she won't divorce me. Please bless our marriage so it will be happy, beautiful, and we can grow old together. Hearing these words, Valerie bent down, looking at Seraphina with a sly grin. Seraphina's entire face flushed scarlet. She couldn't help but raise her hands to cover her face, yet she secretly peeked through her fingers to carefully observe. After clearly seeing that devout silhouette, for some reason, Seraphina suddenly remembered the words I had said while taking care of her in the hospital ward. What 8-pack abs? What doing over 100 push-ups in one breath, and going multiple rounds a night? Seraphina felt like her face was about to catch fire. She hurriedly tugged at Valerie's clothes, signaling her to take her away. But right at this moment, my voice rang out again. If my wife absolutely insists on divorcing me, then I beg the Buddha to bless her so that everything in her future will be peaceful and well. Translator author's note. Seeing this, your humble narrator also wishes all you readers and your families a lucky and prosperous 2025. Inside the solemn and majestic Great Hero Hall, my voice sounded exceptionally devout. Valerie froze for a moment, unable to resist looking down at Seraphina, only to find that her face was already covered in tears. Seeing that I was getting up, Valerie hurriedly pushed Seraphina to hide in the side hall. Silly girl, what are you crying for? Seraphina seemed not to hear her at all, staring blankly outside the hall. It wasn't until I walked far away that she finally spoke. Cousin, let's go back. Valerie was a bit surprised. We aren't burning incense anymore? Seraphina still had teardrops in her eyes, but a smile formed on her lips. What I came to ask for, I already have. Back home, the old lady Elara was waiting early on. Seeing the two of them return, she hurriedly went to greet them. Sarah, did you have fun going out today? Seraphina's mind was completely filled with those words I had said. She didn't even hear clearly what her own mother was saying. Elara grew anxious. Valerie, what's wrong with Sarah? Valerie recounted everything that happened in the afternoon, finishing with a sigh. Let alone Sarah, even I was shocked by it. Elara felt the same. But before she had time to say anything, Seraphina took the initiative to speak with a solemn expression. I want to see him. I want to see him right now. Have you thought it through? Elara had actually guessed her daughter's thoughts long ago, but she still wanted to confirm it one more time. Seraphina's eyes sparkled, absolutely resolute. I've thought it through. Elara patted her head, then dialed my number. When I received Elara's call, I was rolling around in bed like a pancake. Seeing the caller ID on the screen, my whole body jumped up, scrambling to press the answer button. Auntie, is Sarah looking for me? Elara had the phone on speaker. She glanced at Seraphina beside her, whose ears were perked up. Seraphina pouted, tugging at her mother's hem and shaking it. Elara smiled dotingly and didn't beat around the bush. She said directly, Sarah said, she wants to try getting to know you. Really? Even through the phone, my sheer excitement and anticipation could be felt. Elara nodded. We don't need to wait until the 10 days are up. Tomorrow is the weekend. I'll arrange for you two to meet. I'll send you the meeting address a bit later. That's fantastic. I practically jumped 3 feet in the air, too thrilled to control myself. Then, I started asking the old lady all sorts of questions about Seraphina's preferences. Listening to my endless nagging, Elara glanced at Seraphina, smiled and said, you can slowly learn about these things in the future. After saying that, she hung up the phone. I looked at the black screen of my phone, froze for a second, and then let out a string of maniacal heat laughter. On the other side, at the Vance family home, Seraphina was also sitting on pins and needles. Mom, should we push it back a few days? She kept looking in the mirror, her face unable to hide her anxiety. Does my complexion look really bad? I'm still in a wheelchair, will he find me repulsive? Valerie curled her lip and said, if he really found you repulsive, he would have taken the $900,000 and ran when Auntie offered it to him. Your cousin is right, Elara chimed in to agree. Besides, my daughter is so beautiful, just like a heavenly fairy. Who could possibly find you repulsive? Seraphina was amused, a blush rising on her face, making her already exquisite features look even more stunning. Thinking about how she was going to interact with him as husband and wife from now on, a surge of anticipation welled up in Seraphina's eyes. The next day at 1 p.m., inside a coffee shop, I checked the time on my phone and saw there was still 2.5 hours until the agreed time. Only then did I let out a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, on the other side, Seraphina was equally nervous. Cousin, why are we renting an apartment? Don't I have my own properties? Cousin, does this dress suit me? Is it too plain? Mom, is this lipstick too bright? I feel like it doesn't suit me. Seraphina sat at the vanity table chattering away, her face carrying an anticipation and shyness that even she hadn't noticed. Elara and Valerie exchanged a look, both laughing in unison. Sarah, you look perfectly fine just like this. Don't be nervous, okay? He was specifically chosen for you by Mom. He can't be bad. Valerie held Seraphina's hand. And about renting the apartment, the properties under your name are either villas or massive luxury flats in the city center. It's not appropriate. This spot in Jinwoo is centrally located, not too far or too close to the company. It's perfect. Seraphina frowned slightly. You guys are worried that. Exactly, Valerie nodded. Although Kaelen does seem like a really good guy, you still need to be cautious. It's best not to let him know your true identity for the time being. Although Seraphina was pure-hearted, she wasn't a naive, foolish girl. She agreed right away. She understood the logic that time reveals a person's heart better than anyone. Seeing it was about time, Valerie took Seraphina out the door. At this time, I was looking at my watch a dozen times a minute. Thinking about how I was going to meet my precious wifey soon, I was too excited to contain myself. This strange behavior made a couple sitting next to me very curious. Blind date? So nervous? I shook my head. Not a blind date, waiting for my wife. Waiting for your wife and making it this formal? Did you do something wrong and are begging for forgiveness? How is that possible? Me and my wife. I paused, then revealed a smile and continued. We are doing the marriage first, fall in love later trope. The young couple laughed so hard they leaned back. Marriage first, love later? You're playing it that trendy? This interruption actually made me less nervous. However, as the agreed time approached, instead of Seraphina, I received a phone call from the old lady. Hello, Auntie, are you guys here? Elara glanced at Seraphina beside her, smiling helplessly. Come to this address. Sarah is waiting for you at home. This will be your home from now on. After hanging up, Valerie checked her watch. Auntie, then we should get going. Let those two chat alone. After saying that, Valerie pulled the old lady out the door. But right as they reached the hallway, Valerie led Elara and ducked into the apartment right next doors. Then, Valerie revealed a smug expression. Auntie, don't worry. I've set it all up. The soundproofing in this building isn't great. If we listen carefully, we should be able to hear what they are saying. In the apartment next door, Seraphina was staring intensely at the front door, her heart practically leaping out of her throat. From now on, I'm going to live here with my little hubby, interact like husband and wife, and do the things husband and wife are supposed to do. Seraphina covered her face with her hands. What is this inexplicable sense of anticipation? I'm going to die of embarrassment. At this time, I had already entered the elevator, constantly giving myself mental pep talks. Thinking about how I had made all the preparations, I nodded solemnly. Wifey, here I come. Bro, are you crazy? Seeing me act so formal for my wife, a guy in the elevator looked me up and down. I lifted my chin. Can't I be formal when seeing my wife? Let me tell you, my wife is a heavenly fairy. Psycho. With a ding, the elevator doors opened. Coincidentally, that guy also lived on this floor. He followed me out of the elevator and laughed. Come on, let me see what your heavenly fairy wife looks like. I glared at him. My wife? As if you are worthy of looking at her. However, right as I finished my sentence, that guy's eyes went wide, his gaze locking straight onto something behind me. I was still continually chewing him out. I'm warning you, even if you see her in the future, you are not allowed to have any ideas. She is mine. Just as my voice fell, a crisp chuckle came from behind me. I froze, turned my head, and saw Seraphina smiling at me. Seraphina was already inherently beautiful, and now that she had recuperated for a while, it went without saying how stunning she looked. Just now, Seraphina had heard my voice from inside the house. She originally wanted to wait for me to come in, but upon hearing that familiar voice, she couldn't hold back anymore and directly controlled her wheelchair out the door. Wifey! I was both shocked and overjoyed, lunging forward in a single stride. Why did you come out? Hurry back inside! There are bad people among the masses. Saying that, I didn't forget to shoot the neighbor behind me a fierce glare. Seraphina giggled out loud. Silly, you already said I'm your wife. Even if someone looks, I'm still your wife. Saying that, she greeted the neighbor. Hello, this is my husband. Please look out for us in the future. Seraphina was pure, but she wasn't clueless about the ways of the world. Since she had decided to live here, maintaining good relations with the neighbors was naturally important. The neighbor was flustered by this greeting and stuttered, You guys too. I'm Chad. If you need anything in the future, we can look out for each other. Hearing this, I stated directly, No need. I will take good care of my wife. Saying that, I pushed Seraphina back into the apartment and slammed the door shut with a bang. Seraphina just kept giggling. I felt a bit embarrassed by her laughing, so I simply handed the flowers over. Wifey, you look so beautiful when you smile. If I hadn't said anything, it would have been fine. But the moment I said it, Seraphina got shy too, using the bouquet to cover her face. Silly, who goes around everywhere bragging about how pretty their wife is and simultaneously warning others not to look? I, however, felt completely justified. What I said wasn't wrong. Wifey, you're so gorgeous. I definitely have to be on guard. Listening to the thick possessiveness in my words, Seraphina only felt a sweet, sugary sensation at the bottom of her heart. Is this the taste of falling in love? Meanwhile, in the room next door, Elara and Valerie's exchanged a glance, both tearing up simultaneously, though they wore comforted smiles on their faces. Right at this moment, Seraphina suddenly started coughing. Wifey, what's wrong? I immediately grabbed Seraphina's hand and asked. Hearing the sound, Elara panicked and wanted to run straight next door, but Valerie held her back. Auntie, don't go. Her husband is there. We can use this opportunity to observe Kaelen's attitude. Hearing this, Elara calmed down, listening carefully to the commotion next door. Over here, Seraphina was coughing so hard her face turned bright red, her chest heaving violently, tears even coming to her eyes. In a moment of panic, I pulled her directly into my arms. Wifey, take deep breaths, slowly. I'm right here with you. Hearing my strong heartbeat, Seraphina felt an unprecedented sense of security. Her emotions gradually stabilized, and she finally stopped coughing. I carefully wiped the tears from her face, then scooped her up bridal style, carried her into the bedroom, and poured a glass of water. Wifey, get up and drink some water. But Seraphina was lying on the bed and currently had no strength to sit up. I wanted to help her up, but worried I would make her uncomfortable. So I simply took a sip from the cup, bent down, and kissed her. I carefully passed the water from my mouth into hers. The soft touch, combined with the ensuing sweet, warm water, made Seraphina's eyes snap wide open in an instant. Even though Seraphina could feel that this kiss carried absolutely no lust, it still stirred up a massive tsunami in her heart. Just like that, after feeding her more than half a glass of mouth-to-mouth water, Seraphina's complexion gradually returned to normal, bringing with it a hint of a blush. I held Seraphina's hand, looking remorseful. It's all my fault. I knew your health was poor and I still made you laugh. How about we go to the hospital to get it checked out? I was about to pick Seraphina up again. No need. Seraphina pulled my hand back. I just need to lie down for a bit. Will you chat with me? Naturally, it was impossible for me to refuse. I nodded immediately. Soon, cheerful laughter rang out from the room again, leaving Elara and Valerie next door listening with faces full of relief and joy. I had no idea there were people eavesdropping next door. I just held Seraphina's hand, chatting with her about my experiences over the years. The smile on Seraphina's face never ceased. It was just that she hadn't completely recovered after all. Unknowingly, she drifted off to sleep. Seeing Seraphina's eyes closed and her breathing steady, I couldn't help but murmur to myself, Wifey, you're so beautiful. I really don't know what kind of good karma I accumulated in my past life. My childhood goddess, I actually got to marry her and bring her home when I grew up. It feels just like a dream. Wifey, since you are willing to try getting to know me, can I assume that you actually like me too? I rambled on for a long time. Seeing Seraphina sleeping so soundly, I couldn't help but get some ideas. Previously in the hospital, the alcohol gave me liquid courage, and I held her while sleeping for a whole night. Now that she's discharged, doesn't that mean… While condemning my own naughty thoughts, I lifted the blanket and slipped inside. Maybe it was because Seraphina's body was weak, so she was more afraid of the cold than normal people. Feeling a heat source at this moment, she consciously snuggled right into my embrace. Holding her petite body, smelling that sweet fragrance, I felt my heart just melt. Now I have the wife, the kid, and a warm bed. I guess I'm just missing the kid part. But I looked down at Seraphina in my arms and said leisurely, I have the wife, but I'm afraid the kid will have to wait a little longer. Thinking like this, I unknowingly drifted off to sleep as well. However, what I didn't know was that after I fell asleep, Seraphina opened her eyes. What a silly guy. A smile hung on Seraphina's lips. I had a full checkup when I left the hospital, Auntie, Seraphina thought to herself. Suddenly, she felt her face getting hot again and couldn't resist burying her face back into my chest. This time, Seraphina quickly fell into a true deep slumber. In the evening, as soon as I opened my eyes, I met Seraphina's soft pink lips. Driven by some ghostly impulse, I kissed her. Seraphina's eyes flew open in shock, a blush creeping up her cheeks. But immediately after, she closed her eyes again and reached out to wrap her arms around my neck. You guys know the drill. When a guy is kissing, his hands are absolutely never idle. Seraphina was both shocked and shy, wanting to push me away, but her entire brain was dizzy and fuzzy. In the end, she could only let everything unfold. It wasn't until a knock came at the door that I snapped my eyes open in a panic. I discovered that Seraphina's originally rosy face was now turning pale again, and even her gaze was somewhat unfocused. I was scared out of my wits and hurriedly stopped what I was doing with my hands. Wifey, don't scare me, Seraphina spoke with extreme difficulty. Medicine, in my bag. I scrambled off the bed, grabbed the medicine from her bag and fed it to her. It took quite a while before Seraphina recovered, lying weakly on the bed. I was both heartbroken and filled with self-blame, unable to resist giving myself a slap across the face. It's all my fault! I knew your health was poor and I still acted like an animal. I'm fine, don't be like this. Seraphina forced a weak smile. My body is just too weak, I don't blame you. No, it's entirely my fault. Just as I held her hand, wanting to say something more, a knocking sound came from outside the door, along with the ringing of my phone. The call was from Elara. Kaelen, what were you guys doing just now? The nanny has been there for quite a while. Hurry up and open the door. Nanny? I blurted out in confusion. Yes, Sarah's health is poor and you have to work, so I hired a nanny to cook your 3 meals and do the chores. I got it, I'll open the door right now. I hung up the phone and rushed out hurriedly. Seraphina lay on the bed looking at my back and unconsciously remembered the kiss from just now. If my body was a bit stronger, would we have? She blushed, not daring to think any further, but a sweet smile blossomed on her lips. The nanny was called Mrs. Higgins, and she was very professional. As soon as she entered, she started bustling about. I hovered nearby to learn, planning to show off my skills to my wife later on. Meanwhile, Seraphina had regained some energy and prepared to go out and see her little hubby. Because she had been bedridden for too long, her body was weak, and the muscles in her legs had somewhat atrophied. She had barely taken a step out of the bedroom when she tripped over a stool and fell to the floor with a loud thud. Hearing the commotion, I rushed out of the kitchen and saw Seraphina sprawled on the ground. Wifey, what happened? I was startled, bolting over to pick her up, my eyes turning red with heartache. Why didn't you call me if you wanted to get out of bed? Why did you try to get up by yourself? Seraphina already felt embarrassed about falling. Being scolded by me made her feel even worse, and tears instantly welled up in her eyes. I didn't want to trouble you with every little thing. Seeing this, I froze, suddenly realizing that my words had thrown her into internal turmoil again. So I smiled and wiped her tears. Wifey, I am your husband. You are willing to rely on me. How could I ever find you troublesome? Saying that, I pulled Seraphina's hand closer. Did you bump your booty when you fell just now? Let hubby take a look. Hubby will blow on it to make it better. This deliberately naughty tone made Seraphina burst out laughing with a pfft. The previous guilt and self-blame instantly turned into playful reproach. She reached out a delicate hand and pinched my nose. In your dreams. Plus, there's an outsider here. Right as she said that, Mrs. Higgins's voice drifted out from the kitchen. You guys can pretend I'm not here. Saying that, she muttered another sentence. Though you'll have to reimburse me for my blood sugar-lowering insulin pills. Hearing this, Seraphina was so shy she couldn't lift her head, her earlobes turning completely red. She couldn't help but shoot me a glare. It's all your fault. I gave a wide grin, admitting guilt while piling food into Seraphina's bowl. This meal was incredibly sweet, bringing us much closer. At the very least, Seraphina wouldn't blush at the drop of a hat anymore. After dinner, I cleared the dishes into the kitchen, while Seraphina stared at me without blinking, feeling quite emotional inside. She originally thought she would never step into marriage in her entire life. But now, not only was she married, but it was to the son of her former bestie. Does this count as an old cow grazing on tender grass? Cougar territory? Thinking of this, Seraphina suddenly felt at a loss for what to do again. In the future, when she met her bestie, she didn't even know what kind of chaotic battleground it would be. Right at this moment, I suddenly spoke up. Wifey, do you want to go out and take a stroll in the park? Stroll in the park? A hint of yearning flashed in Seraphina's eyes, but it was mostly shyness. Like an old married couple, holding hands and walking in the park after dinner? Thinking about how, even though she had kissed and hugged me now, it was all just going with the flow under the circumstances. Going out on a prepared date right now, she still felt mentally unready. Thinking this, Seraphina subconsciously shook her head. I'm a bit tired. Next time, okay? Seeing this, I didn't mind. Of course, no problem, then let's head back to the room and rest. Saying that, I picked Seraphina up and placed her back on the bed. Then I immediately ran back out. Seraphina was utterly confused but soon saw me return carrying a basin of hot water. Wifey, soak your feet first. I'll give you a massage so you can recover faster. More massaging? Seraphina's face turned pink. She felt it was just too embarrassing. I wore a dead serious expression. Why not? Your legs absolutely need more massaging to regain their strength. Saying that, ignoring whether Seraphina objected or not, I had already squatted down and taken off her shoes. Seraphina had a slender figure, and because she was well maintained, her jade-like feet were incredibly white and tender. Feeling her feet being cupped in my hands, Seraphina was too shy to even raise her head, just covering her face and saying, "You really don't need to massage them, I'll just soak them." I was completely unabashed. We're a married couple now. Isn't washing each other's feet perfectly natural? Saying that, I placed Seraphina's feet into the basin of water. Feeling the warm temperature of the water, combined with my serious no-nonsense expression, the shyness on Seraphina's face eased quite a bit. After she finished soaking, I sat on the edge of the bed, pulled Seraphina's legs onto my lap, and started massaging. From the calves to the thighs, the pressure was perfect, pressing rhythmically and extremely earnestly. Seraphina transitioned from unbearable shyness at the beginning to gradually enjoying my massage, and looking at my consistently serious face, a smile couldn't help but form at the corner of Seraphina's mouth. Being able to meet him, it's truly wonderful. Just like that, under the waves of tingling pressure, Seraphina unknowingly fell asleep. I waited until I was sure she was deeply asleep, before carefully arranging her legs, tucking her in under the blanket, and getting up to go to the next room. It wasn't that I didn't want to sleep in the same bed as Seraphina. It was just that my vintage babe's body was simply too weak right now. If I accidentally got impulsive again, the consequences would be unthinkable. Meanwhile, inside the Vance family villa, Elara had been sitting on pins and needles, staring intently at the laptop screen in front of her. It wasn't until she saw me enter the other room that she finally breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't expect this kid to actually have such good self-control. Valerie also found it rare. Before, the nurse said Kaelen climbed onto Sarah's hospital bed and slept with her for a whole night. I didn't expect that now that they are living together, he would actually behave himself. She had installed the camera in the living room. After all, Seraphina's physical condition was truly something they couldn't stop worrying about. The next day, while I was still groggy with sleep, I suddenly heard a faint, soft cry. "Kaelen, where did you go?" It was Seraphina's voice. My expression changed drastically, and I scrambled up. Without even bothering to knock, I directly pushed open Seraphina's bedroom door. What met my eyes was Seraphina sitting on the bed. Her face was full of panic, and her pale cheeks were still stained with tears. My heart instantly ached fiercely. I lunged forward in one stride and pulled Seraphina into my arms. Seraphina nestled against my chest, buried her face in it, rubbed against it a few times, and then took a deep, satisfied breath. "What's wrong?" I looked down at her. "Did you have a nightmare?" Seraphina didn't speak, only tightening her arms around me a bit more. She was too embarrassed to say that she felt panicked and insecure because she woke up and found I wasn't by her side. Seeing that she wouldn't speak, I didn't press further. I simply held her quietly, using a soft, soothing song to comfort Seraphina, lulling her back to sleep without her realizing it. When Seraphina woke up again, the person she saw was Mrs. Higgins. "You're awake," Mrs. Higgins, wearing an apron, chuckled. "I'm here to call you for breakfast." Seraphina nodded, slowly sitting up and craning her neck to look outside the room. Seeing this, Mrs. Higgins quickly said, "Your hubby went to work. Before he left, he specifically instructed me to wait until you woke up before I left." Saying that, Mrs. Higgins put on an expression of sugar overload discomfort, which made Seraphina instantly blush, though her heart was incredibly sweet. Over here, after arriving at the company, I secretly made a firm resolution in my heart to work hard and make bank. After all, whether it was nursing Seraphina's health or having kids in the future, there were so many places that required money. At this time, right after the morning meeting ended, Barnaby and I were preparing to head back to our office when Department Head Sterling stopped us. "Kaelen, Barnaby, how do you feel about work these past 2 days? If there's anything you're not used to, just let me know. Don't hold back." Seeing our direct superior smiling so affectionately, Barnaby and I exchanged a glance, both sighing in our hearts simultaneously. Here it comes. The inexplicable care and concern is here again. Is he trying to force us to pick a side? Barnaby wore a fake professional smile, shaking his head vigorously to indicate everything was fine. I likewise forced a bright smile. "Thank you for your concern, Mr. Sterling. I feel like everything is going great." "That's good, that's good." Sterling made small talk about ancient, irrelevant things for a long time before finally letting us go back to our office. As soon as we got back, Barnaby slapped his thigh. "No, the more I think about it, the weirder it gets. Why do I feel like he's taken a fancy to us?" I shuddered in disgust. "Get lost. Can't you think of anything good?" Saying that, I sighed again. "All right, no more messing around with you. I need to get to work." No matter what Sterling's agenda was, the most important thing right now was to do my job well. After all, I still have to make money to support my precious wife. Thinking of Seraphina, the corners of my mouth immediately turned up. Even the work in front of me looked much more pleasing to the eye. After a busy day, we finally made it to clock out time. Barnaby excitedly scooted over. We haven't hung out in a while. Let's go get a drink tonight. However, before he even finished his sentence, I had already grabbed my jacket and bolted out the door. No time! See you next time! Hey, holy crap! Dog son, what are you running so fast for? Do you have a heavenly fairy waiting for you at home? Arriving home, the moment I opened the door, what greeted my eyes were piping hot dishes and Seraphina, who was lying on the table playing with her phone. Hearing the sound, Seraphina hurriedly lifted her head, her pretty face filled with a lovely surprise. You're back! Mrs. Higgins just left. The food is ready, go wash your hands and let's eat. When Mrs. Higgins came during the day, Seraphina had asked her to help with taking a bath. Right now, Seraphina was wearing a pink nightgown, making her look exceptionally petite and docile. Looking at the childhood dream goddess currently looking like this, I couldn't help but flash a wide grin. Wifey, you're so beautiful. Seraphina's pretty face flushed, shooting me a reproachful glance. So annoying. All you know is how to sweet talk. Little did she know, the more she acted like this, the more my heart fluttered. I almost turned into a hungry wolf and pounced on her. Thankfully, reason gained the upper hand. I took a deep breath and somewhat frantically dashed toward the kitchen to wash my hands. Watching my retreating back, Seraphina pursed her lips into a smile. After finishing the meal, seeing it was still early, I once again suggested going for a walk in the park. This time, Seraphina only hesitated for a moment before quickly agreeing. However, she looked at the nightgown she was wearing and felt a bit troubled. But I'm wearing a nightgown. You look beautiful in a nightgown too, I blurted out. But then I realized something and said, the nightgown is too breezy, it's easy to catch a cold outside. Let's change into something else. At this time, Seraphina thought for a moment, tilted her head and said, then you pick an outfit for me. Okay? I nodded immediately, but as soon as I opened the closet doors, I frowned. Wifey, you have so few clothes! As soon as the words left my mouth, I felt a bit regretful. It was probably because Seraphina had been hospitalized for so long that she had spent all her money and couldn't afford new ones. Thinking of this, my resolve to make bank became even firmer. Hearing this, Seraphina mentally cursed, crap. Back then, when her cousin bought this apartment because time was too tight, she only picked some ordinary clothes and daily necessities from home. Right now, it barely filled half a closet. After casually picking out a dress, I asked with concern, Wifey, should I help you change? As I said that, a faint, imperceptible smirk tugged at the corner of my lips. After all, your body is so weak. What if you pass out while changing clothes? Seraphina didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm not a vegetable anymore. I'm not as weak as you imagine. Half an hour later, inside Riverside Park near the neighborhood, Seraphina and I sat on a bench in the park, watching an old married couple walk past. Both of their hair was white, and the old grandma's steps were faltering and her back was hunched. Yet the old grandpa didn't show any disgust. Instead, he slowed his pace, matching the old grandma's steps as they slowly walked forward. I don't know what crossed her mind, but a trace of yearning suddenly welled up in Seraphina's heart, and the corners of her mouth unconsciously turned up. Will Kaelen and I be like them in the future? Wifey, do you want a candied hawthorn stick? My voice pulled Seraphina back to reality. Seraphina looked up and saw a vendor carrying candied hawthorns not far away. In her memory, she had never eaten this kind of street snack. When she was a kid, her family's conditions were poor, and when she grew up, she had no time and felt it was childish. But at this moment, Seraphina suddenly wanted to know what candied hawthorns tasted like. She immediately said happily, I want to eat one. Young man, buying a candied hawthorn for your girlfriend? The vendor looked at me and Seraphina, chuckling. Come, let me pick a big one for you. I paid the money and lifted my chin. Not a girlfriend. She's my wife. We have the certificate. The vendor froze for a second. Oh my, this young lady looks quite young. Married this early. What a perfect match. Seraphina was so shy, her face turned bright red. Mister, I'm actually quite old. Where are you old? I interrupted Seraphina. Wifey, you look just like a girl in her early 20s right now. This statement wasn't entirely a lie. After all, Seraphina inherently had a slender figure, and with her naturally small face and fair skin, she looked incredibly young, no matter how you looked at her. After I sat back down on the bench, Seraphina felt a bit embarrassed and whispered, Why do you tell everyone you meet that we have a marriage certificate? You're showing off. I grinned but didn't answer Seraphina. Instead, I asked a young couple walking by, This is my wife. Isn't she beautiful? This extroverted social butterfly behavior utterly bewildered the young couple. After snapping out of it, they both nodded in unison. Indeed beautiful. By this time, Seraphina was already too shy to lift her head, unleashing a flurry of loving fist combos on me. Let's go, otherwise you're going to grab a passing dog just to show off to it. Left with no choice, I had to hastily end this date. However, the moment we stepped inside the house, I got a burst of energy again. Wifey, you go back to the room first. I'll get water to wash your feet and give you a massage. More massaging. Seraphina's face turned pink. She felt it was truly too embarrassing. I wore a solemn expression. Why wouldn't we? Your legs absolutely need more massaging to recover their strength. Saying that, I smoothly opened the candied hawthorn and handed it over. You just wait for your humble servant to wait upon you. Seraphina was amused, giggling non-stop, tentatively taking a bite of the candied hawthorn. In an instant, The sweet and sour taste filled her entire mouth. Seraphina narrowed her eyes, feeling that her mood had never been as joyful as it was today. After the massage was over, I stood up and prepared to leave, but Seraphina's jade-like hands gripped my clothes, refusing to let go. What's wrong? Seeing this, I instantly got nervous. Wifey, are you feeling unwell somewhere? Seraphina's pretty face turned slightly red, and she spoke hesitantly. Are you still sleeping next door tonight? Saying this, Seraphina recalled waking up this morning to find herself alone on the bed, and the panic and insecurity she felt. She didn't want to experience that a second time, but to actually ask me out loud to stay and sleep with her was something she just couldn't bring herself to say. I, however, understood immediately. Wifey, if you want me to sleep over here, then I won't go over there. Saying that, I hurriedly added, but don't worry, until your body is fully recovered, I absolutely will not mess around. Then what if my body recovers? Hearing this, I froze, then laughed. Then we'll do the things married couples love to do. After saying that, I went to take a shower. Listening to my retreating footsteps, Seraphina finally opened her beautiful eyes. Her face was flushed, but the corners of her mouth stayed turned up the entire time. 2 minutes later, hearing my footsteps return, Seraphina immediately closed her eyes to pretend to sleep. She felt the mattress sink down slightly, followed closely by a body radiating heat pressing close to her. Wifey, I'll hold you while we sleep. Seraphina didn't speak, but cooperatively lifted her head, letting my arm slide under and nestled her entire self into my embrace. Before long, Seraphina fell asleep, her breathing steady. I, on the other hand, was secretly suffering in agony. Who understands my pain? A warm, fragrant beauty in my arms, and she is my legally certified wife. Yet I can't do a damn thing. I just gritted my teeth and endured it for the entire night. Early the next morning, when I opened the door for Mrs. Higgins, she was startled by my dark circles and her brows furrowed. Sarah's body hasn't recovered yet. Why don't you young folks know how to show some restraint? Seraphina happened to be getting out of bed. Hearing this, she instantly blushed scarlet. My old face also turned red, and I used the excuse of needing to pee to flee the scene. I couldn't explain this even if I tried. After eating breakfast, Seraphina walked me to the door. Go to work. I'll wait for you to come home. Looking at her, my heart skipped a beat. Unable to resist any longer, I leaned down and kissed her cheek. Seraphina stood frozen for a moment. Looking at my fleeing silhouette, she couldn't help but laugh. As a newbie, I was quite busy at work, having to learn the ropes while also familiarizing myself with company rules. I stayed busy right up until lunchtime, then headed toward the company cafeteria with Barnaby. As a somewhat well-known company domestically, Seraphina Biological Tech had fantastic employee benefits. Not mentioning anything else, just the cafeteria standard of 3 dishes and a soup for $5 was already streets ahead. However, just as Barnaby and I were getting our food in the employee section, Manager Sterling walked over. "Hello, Mr. Sterling," the surrounding employees greeted him. Sterling nodded slightly in response, then walked straight over to me. "Kaelen, Barnaby, come with me for a second." When Sterling specifically called us out, everyone froze for a moment. I had been busy all morning and was so hungry my chest was stuck to my back, but I really couldn't refuse. I had no choice but to follow. Behind us, the other employees immediately started gloating. Those two, getting assigned a private office as soon as they joined, I thought they had some serious backing. Looks like it's nothing special after all. Yeah, getting pulled aside for work assignments right at lunchtime. Hilarious. Listening to the gossip behind me, I couldn't help but sigh. Just as I was preparing to resign myself to my fate for the sake of the paycheck, Sterling's feet led us straight into the executive dining room. Barnaby started muttering, "He's not going to make us watch him eat and then assign us work, is he?" I was also a bit surprised. What an animal. Earning this pathetic salary is truly not easy. Just as we were whispering to each other, Sterling smiled warmly and spoke. "Sit down. Order whatever you want to eat. I'll have the auntie bring it over." Barnaby was completely dumbfounded this time. Eating here? The food in the executive area was more than just a little bit better than the employee area. I also reacted, but still said hesitantly, "Mr. Sterling, this is against the rules, isn't it? We should go eat in the employee area." "It's fine. I have something to discuss with you, so we'll just eat here today," Sterling said, passing the menu over. "Order up. Don't be polite with me." Barnaby and I were already starving. At this point, we didn't care about anything else and immediately started ordering without a second word. I have to say, the food in the executive area was just plain amazing. Lobster, abalone, it was brought up as if it didn't cost a dime. At first, Barnaby and I were a bit restrained, but Sterling continuously urged us. "Eat up, aren't you hungry? Don't be shy. If you guys don't eat, I can't finish this whole table of food by myself anyway." It wasn't until he saw Barnaby and me eating joyfully that the heart Sterling had been keeping suspended finally settled down. Inwardly, he secretly rejoiced. These two were planted by the old lady. I definitely have to get the relationship right. At this time, I suddenly remembered something. "Mr. Sterling, didn't you say you had something to discuss with us?" Sterling snapped back to reality and hurriedly shook his head. No, I called you guys here today because I want to transfer you to a different position." I was dumbfounded. Barnaby also reflexively asked, "You're transferring him, what about me?" Sterling looked at Barnaby and explained, You guys will still be in the same office. It's just adding a tiny little bit of extra work for Kaelen. I sighed in relief and quickly asked, "What work? Just give the order." Right now I was mainly doing minor tasks. If he didn't assign me a bit more work, I would actually feel uneasy. Sterling tried his best to make his smile look even friendlier. "The company doesn't have enough drivers right now, so we decided to assign you a car. From now on, if I have to go out on business, I'll have to trouble you to drive and chauffeur me." Hearing this, I was completely baffled. Sterling, a company veteran, actually used the word trouble you on a lowly grunt like me? Absurd. Simply too absurd. Barnaby was also shocked. "Mr. Sterling, you want Kaelen to work part-time as a driver?" Sterling quickly shook his head. "Not part-time, just assigning him a car specifically to chauffeur me alone. Plus, I don't go out very often. The workload isn't big." Sterling only then remembered something. "Oh right, Kaelen, you have a driver's license, right?" "I have one, yes." "Then it's settled." Sterling finalized the decision. "Are you full? Let me take you down to see the car." I followed Sterling out the door in a daze. Before leaving, Sterling didn't forget to instruct Barnaby. "Take your time eating. If it's not enough, order more. Put it on my tab." Just like that, I was led by Sterling straight to the company parking lot. Then, looking at the Xiaomi SU7 in front of me, I turned into a literal statue. "Mr. Sterling, the car the company is assigning me. It wouldn't happen to be this one, would it?" Hearing this, Sterling froze, then immediately said, "You don't like it? Then what car do you like?" This was specifically ordered by the chairman, but she didn't say what kind of car to give. He had racked his brain all night before settling on this one. After all, if it was too expensive or too cheap, it might incur the chairman's wrath. This Xiaomi SU7 was not too high, not too low, just right. "If I don't like it, you can actually change it for me?" I probed tentatively. Sterling slapped his thigh. "Of course we will change it until you are satisfied." Saying that, he realized it sounded wrong and hurriedly corrected himself. "After all, you're the one driving it in the future. If you are comfortable driving it, I'll feel at ease sitting in it." I sucked in a breath of cold air. Good heavens, these employee benefits, they're so good I'm starting to get scared. But on second thought, I'm just an intern with no background or status. What could the company possibly want from me? If they offer it, just take it. Thinking like this, I immediately relaxed. "No, I think this car is pretty great. As long as you like it." Sterling also breathed a sigh of relief, then shoved the keys straight into my hand. "Just keep the keys and drive it normally. Feel free to drive it for commuting to and from work. Oh, right. Remember to get a receipt when you pump gas. The company reimburses it." My eyes went wide, simply unable to believe that such an amazing thing existed. Sterling hastily explained, "This is just to make it convenient for me to find you anytime and also to not delay any major company business." It was just that while his mouth said this, inwardly he was secretly cursing. "Are you kidding me? I'd rather build a shrine to enshrine you. How would I ever dare to summon you at a moment's notice?" I looked at the car keys in my hand, and the excitement ultimately conquered my trepidation. "All right, rest assured, Mr. Sterling, from now on I will absolutely be on call whenever you need me." Returning to the office, Barnaby was lying on the sofa playing a mobile game. Seeing me come in, he didn't even lift his head. "What kind of car did they assign you?" "One of those 3 slowpoke roadblockers." I gave a cheeky grin and said, "A Xiaomi SU7, top-tier Max Edition." Barnaby didn't believe a word of it. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. I pocketed the keys and went to take my noon nap. In the evening, after wrapping up a day's work, I sent Seraphina a message saying, "There's a surprise tonight," telling her to wait for me like a good girl at home. Then, I dragged Barnaby to the parking lot. When he saw me unlock the car doors, Barnaby's face was practically leaking pure envy. I flashed a wide grin. "Look at you, drooling over a car. Come on, I'll give you a ride home. And I need to pack up my stuff from the dorm to take with me anyway." By the time I finished packing and returned, it was almost 7 p.m. I had just pulled out my keys when the door opened from the inside. "You're back!" Seraphina looked at me, speaking with a radiant smile. I, on the other hand, was scared half to death. "Wifey, why are you standing up? Be careful!" Seeing my face full of nervous panic, Seraphina only felt a sugary sweetness in her heart. Naturally, her words carried a hint of coquettishness. "I'm not made of glass. Walking a few steps is perfectly fine." "Absolutely not. Even if there's only a 1 in a million chance of you falling, I can't take that risk." Without leaving room for argument, I scooped Seraphina up into my arms and kicked the door shut behind me. At this time, there were 4 dishes and a soup laid out on the dining table. Because quite some time had passed, the food had already gotten a bit cold. I frowned slightly. "Wifey, didn't I tell you to eat first and not wait for me?" "But I didn't want to eat all by myself," Seraphina said, her voice dropping a few decibels. "I'm not used to it when you aren't here." Hearing this, I was over the moon. It seemed this vintage babe was getting more and more satisfied with me. Now I just have to wait for her body to fully recover and my childhood dream will be 100% realized. After dinner, I held Seraphina's hand and slowly walked to the parking lot. Seraphina instantly understood what the so-called surprise was, but she still feigned confusion. "Where is the surprise you said you prepared for me?" I puffed out my chest proudly, pointing at the brand new Xiaomi SU7. "Tada, look! This is the surprise I prepared for you. Do you like it? A Xiaomi SU7? Seraphina frowned slightly. She had called the company to arrange a car for me. Although she hadn't specified the model, in her eyes, this Xiaomi SU7 was still a bit lacking. After all, the cars she used to drive were all Porsche tier and above. Seeing her reaction, I felt a bit puzzled. What's wrong? Wifey, you don't like it? Hearing my voice, Seraphina snapped back to reality and hurriedly put on a look of sheer astonishment. Where did you get the money to buy a car? I didn't buy it. The company assigned it to me. I led her toward the car and explained, Wifey, let me tell you, this whole thing is actually super bizarre. I'm just a lowly grunt in the marketing department. The company not only gave me a private office, but now they also assigned me a car and told me I could use it however I want. Listening to this, Seraphina wanted to laugh. She guessed that the old lady must have found out I was going to the company for an interview and pulled some strings with the HR department, and those higher-ups in the company were the slickest of the slick. Faced with someone planted by the old lady, they would definitely fall over themselves to suck up to me. While thinking this inwardly, Seraphina maintained a look of utter amazement on her face. Really? Then maybe the company recognized your sheer talent. I didn't expect you to be so amazing. Being praised by her in just one sentence, I was practically puffing up like a peacock showing its feathers. And the more I spoke, the smugger I got. Wifey, don't you worry. Since the company values me so much, making bank to support you in the future will be absolutely no problem. Seraphina burst out laughing with a pff. I believe in you. Wifey, don't laugh. I got anxious. I'm telling the truth. Your health is poor, so from now on you just do whatever makes you happy. I'll handle the money-making part. To this day, I still didn't know why Seraphina had become a vegetable in the first place, and I didn't dare to ask too many questions. All I could do was try my absolute hardest to create a carefree, worry-free world for her. Seraphina felt her nose sting with emotion and hurriedly changed the subject. By the way, is this car the surprise you were talking about? I shook my head, flashing a mysterious smile. Then, I pulled open the passenger side door. Instantly, a rich floral scent wafted through the air. Immediately after, I pulled out a massive bouquet of roses from inside. Wifey, for you! Seraphina stared blankly at the roses in front of her. In almost an instant, tears welled up in her eyes. I thought Seraphina didn't like them or was allergic to pollen, and hurriedly moved to throw the flowers away. But just as I made a move, Seraphina suddenly threw herself at me, hugging me tightly. I completely froze. This was the first time she had been this proactive. Idiot! You massive idiot! Seraphina hugged me, her voice thick with tears. I was just a useless cripple who was sick for so long. I'm almost 20 years older than you. Why are you treating me so well? Hearing this, I couldn't help but chuckle, reaching out to wrap my arm around Seraphina's slender waist. Silly girl, you are my wife. If I don't treat you well, who should I treat well? Besides, in my heart, you are the most perfect woman in this world. Being able to marry you is the blessing of 3 lifetimes. Saying that, I gently wiped away Seraphina's tears. All right, stop crying. People who don't know might think I'm bullying you. Besides, I have one more gift. Seraphina froze. Another gift? I smiled, then pulled a ring out of my pocket. Wifey, I'm sorry. I scratched the back of my head. I really should have bought a diamond ring, but I just started working and don't have much money on hand, so you'll have to settle for wearing this for now. While I was still rambling on, Seraphina had already slipped the ring onto her finger. Does it look good? Seraphina spread her hand and placed it next to her face, her eyes shining blindingly bright. The ring was actually quite basic, but under the dim yellow streetlights paired with the smile on her face, it formed a breathtakingly beautiful picture. I stared blankly and nodded vigorously. It looks good. It looks incredibly good. Seraphina's smile grew even sweeter. I think it looks very good too. You have great taste. I was saying you look good. Seraphina's face turned red again, full of shy bashfulness. So annoying. While speaking, her body swayed, almost falling. After all, standing for so long with such intense emotional fluctuations, her body was struggling to handle it. I hurriedly supported her. Wifey, what's wrong? I'm fine. Just a little tired. Let's go home. I nodded, picked her up, and started walking back. Along the way, I carried Seraphina, and Seraphina carried a massive bouquet of roses, drawing the side eyes of countless pedestrians. Seraphina blushed again. Are you tired? Why don't you put me down and let me walk myself? Of course I'm not tired. Did you forget? Your hubby here has an 8-pack. If I hadn't said anything, it would have been fine. But the moment I said it, Seraphina immediately recalled what I had said in the hospital room, like going multiple rounds a night. This made her face turn even redder, and she quietly buried her face into my chest, the corners of her mouth curling up slightly. Whether he has an 8-pack or not is unknown for now, but these pecs are definitely well trained. By the time we got home, Seraphina had already fallen asleep. I carefully placed her on the bed. After finishing the basic routine of washing her feet and massaging them, I hugged her and fell asleep too. Early the next morning, I was just about to head out for work when Seraphina slowly stood up from her wheelchair, walked step by step in front of me, and then stood on her tiptoes to press a kiss to my cheek. I turned into stone. This was the absolute first time Seraphina had been this proactive. By the time I snapped out of it and wanted to respond, I was shoved out the front door by Seraphina and locked outside. Seraphina's shy voice came from inside. You should go to work now, I panicked. Wait, open the door first. No! Seraphina shook her head. That one kiss just now had exhausted all her courage. Right now, she truly didn't dare to face her little hubby. I, however, started wailing. No, wifey, I'm still wearing my slippers. I was in a fantastic mood today, so after arriving at the company, I took the initiative to help Barnaby prep coffee in the pantry. The pantry in the morning is the liveliest place. Employees usually love to gather there to chat and slack off after clocking in. When I arrived, there were already quite a few colleagues inside. At first glance, they were all girls, chattering away like a flock of sparrows. Seeing someone walk in, all eyes turned to me in unison. Upon seeing it was me, their eyes instantly lit up. There were plenty of young people in the entire company, but guys like me, young, handsome, and with a great physique, were a rare breed. So, someone immediately sidled up to me. Hey there, I'm Linnea from the finance department. We're all colleagues, let's add each other on WeChat. It'll be easier to stay in touch if anything comes up. Once she broke the ice, the others also whipped out their phones and crowded around. I was completely dumbfounded. Are they this aggressive? But as a newbie, I couldn't really refuse, so I obediently took out my phone and added them one by one. At this point, Linnea smiled sweetly and asked, "By the way, do you have a girlfriend?" The others also perked up their ears. I put on a serious face. I'm married. For a moment, everyone was shocked. Then they collectively revealed expressions of extreme doubt. No way, you're married at your age? Didn't you just graduate from college? Are you trying to trick us? I felt a bit helpless and continued to state that I was genuinely married. But not only did the crowd refuse to believe it, they insisted I show them my wedding photos. Linnea, in particular, was very blunt. You aren't even wearing a wedding ring. Who would believe you? I suffered in silence. When I married Seraphina, she was still in a vegetative state. Even the marriage certificate was processed by the old lady using our photos. I could only bite the bullet and explain, my wife's health is poor, so for our marriage, we just got the certificate. Hearing this, Linnea looked at me with deep amusement. Then you must at least have a photo of the marriage certificate, right? The marriage certificate! I snapped back to reality, pulling out my phone wanting to find a photo only to realize I had never even taken one. Seeing this, the crowd started chattering and teasing all at once. Can't produce it, can you? I knew you were tricking us! Are you worried we're going to harass you? There are so many pretty girls here, and none of them catch your eye? I originally didn't have much experience dealing with girls, and my face was instantly flushed red from their teasing. Thankfully, at this exact moment, Sterling walked past the pantry and bailed me out. What are you all doing gathered around here making a racket? Don't you have work to do? Someone stuck their tongue out. Mr. Sterling, you know our company always has too many monks and too little porridge. Too many girls, too few guys. It's rare we get a high potential stock, so of course we have to strike while the iron is hot. Hearing this, Sterling seemed to think of something, then pulled a long face. Nonsense. Dating requires mutual consent. What does it look like, cornering someone in here like this? Go back to work. All of you! I breathed a sigh of relief, hurriedly holding the 2 cups of coffee and preparing to head back. Who knew Sterling would pat my shoulder? Kaelen, I have a niece who is very pretty. I was just rewarding myself with a coffee in the company pantry and ended up cornered against the wall and pursued by a group of young female colleagues. Even the department head wanted to introduce his daughter to me, but I handed out nice guy cards to every single one of them, simply because not only was I married at a young age, my wife was my childhood dream goddess. It was just that she had recently woken up from a vegetative state and her body was still very weak, which led to the whole scenario of me taking care of myself in the pantry. However, regarding my explanation, my colleague Linnea not only didn't believe me, but she even had her aunt, the director of finance, assign me to fieldwork, creating an opportunity for her to be alone with me. Right now, as soon as she got in the car, Linnea launched a fierce offensive against me. I like you quite a bit. Look at me. Curves in all the right places, not bad at all, right? How about we give it a try? I was genuinely spooked by her directness. Don't do this. I'm really married. If you don't believe me, I'll bring my marriage certificate tomorrow to show you. Linnea curled her lip. You can fake one of those on Pinduoduo for a few bucks. Tell me, do you really just not like me? I was completely speechless and didn't want to waste any more breath on her. I said directly, it's working hours right now. Where does the company need you to collect the debt? Give me the address. Seeing that I adamantly refused to take the bait, Linnea felt helpless. She could only sigh and give the address. After saying it, she still refused to give up, acting coquettish. But my seatbelt seems to be broken. It won't pull. Can you help me? I saw through her little trick in a second. Then go sit in the back. Linnea was utterly dumbfounded. It took her a long while before she angrily buckled her seatbelt herself, glaring at me through gritted teeth. You're impossible! I, however, couldn't care less. I slammed the gas pedal and we set off. The work went smoothly. By the time we collected the debt, it was only a little past 5 p.m. I was just thinking about dropping Linnea back at the company so I could hurry home. But to my surprise, Linnea stopped me again. I told you we are on fieldwork today. We don't need to go back to the company to clock out. Why go back? Saying that, Linnea blinked at me. I know a Western restaurant nearby. Let's go eat together. The food is really good. Not going. Why are you like this? I'm already being so proactive. Just because you are proactive means I have to cooperate with you? I completely lost my patience. Linnea finally broke down, got out of the car in a furious huff, and stormed off. Regarding this, I was more than happy to be free. I hummed a tune and drove back home. Normally it would take until at least 7 p.m. to get home. Today, I was through the door before 6. I opened the door quietly, only to find the living room empty. However, I could hear faint talking coming from the study. I know. Regarding that previous project, let me review it first. Push it back for now. Is everything running normally at the company? I can't go back for the time being. Listening to the intermittent voice, I froze. Project? Company? Is wifey talking to someone on the phone? Does wifey actually have a job? That's not right. Logically speaking, an ordinary employee who was sick for this long would have been fired by their company ages ago. Not to mention my wife was previously issued an ultimate medical ultimatum by the doctors. But how does it sound like not only did she not lose her job, but there are actually projects waiting for her to approve? Just as I was thoroughly confused, Seraphina walked out of the study. You're back! Her voice snapped me back to reality. Wifey, what were you just doing? Watching a show? Seraphina waved the tablet in her hand. This workplace drama is so intense. I glanced at the female CEO making a phone call on the screen, and everything suddenly made sense. So the lines I heard were just dialogue from the TV show. By the way, how come you got off work so early today? Hearing this, I snapped back to reality and smiled. I had fieldwork today, so I got off early. Seraphina's movements, however, stiffened. Fieldwork? Who assigned that? The marketing department does need fieldwork, but a newbie hubby shouldn't be the one assigned to it, right? I didn't notice Seraphina's abnormality and just complained to myself. The director of the finance department made me take someone out to collect a debt. Hearing this, Seraphina's heart settled down a bit. Did you not want to take her? Saying that, Seraphina secretly pondered to herself. Looks like I need to have a word with Sterling later. After all, this car was originally intended to be a private car for him under the company's name. I shook my head and recounted everything that happened, from running into Linnea in the pantry to her relentlessly flirting with me during the fieldwork. When Seraphina heard that a female colleague asked for my WeChat in the pantry, her expression turned a bit ugly. She had always felt deeply insecure because she was almost 20 years older than me, and she knew very well that the young girls at the company were all dressed to the nines and glamorous. But upon hearing that, I didn't hesitate for a second to directly declare my married status. She started laughing again. In this moment, she suddenly felt an unparalleled sweetness in her heart. Your husband was harassed by someone else and you can still laugh? I put on an aggrieved expression. You have no idea, today in the pantry, I felt like Tang Sanzong walking into the spider demon's cave. I was terrified, Seraphina giggled out loud. But you still resisted the external temptations, didn't you? I heard the undercurrent of worry in her words and said with a resolute tone, Wifey, with you here, things on the outside aren't called temptations. What are they called? They're called flies. They're called harassment. I need to look at my precious wifey more to heal the trauma in my soul. So annoying. You only know how to sweet-talk me. Seraphina glared at me playfully, but inwardly felt even sweeter. Seeing this, I took a step forward and wrapped my arms around her waist. Wifey, in my heart, you are the most perfect. Other women don't even compare to a single one of your fingers. Seraphina's face instantly exploded in red. She was so shy she pushed me away and walked into the bedroom. I sighed. This vintage babe is great at everything. She's just too easy to embarrass. It seems I really need to say more sweet nothings in the future and fight for more physical intimacy so my wife can get used to it ASAP. Otherwise, at this rate, when will I finally reach the finish line? When nanny Mrs. Higgins arrived on time to cook dinner, she was quite curious to see me at home. How come you're home so early today? Because I was thinking about my wife. So I worked my butt off during the day to finish early and come back to keep my wife company, I said candidly. Seraphina, however, blushed red. What nonsense are you talking about? To make matters worse, Mrs. Higgins even teased us. Newlyweds are just different, so sweet. Hearing this, I corrected her with a dead serious face. Mrs. Higgins, this has nothing to do with being newlyweds. It's entirely because my wife is just too beautiful, and I simply love her too much. My stream of cheesy flirting continued nonstop, making Seraphina cover her beet-red face. No more talking. I felt like I hadn't had enough, but still said earnestly, Yes, ma'am. Whatever the wifey boss says goes. Stop it! Seraphina was so anxious she almost stomped her feet. Mrs. Higgins watched the two of us bicker with a smiling face, sighing, It's so good to be young. After Mrs. Higgins finished cooking and left, Seraphina frowned. It seems Mrs. Higgins took on another cleaning job besides working for us. She's busy all day and her husband won't even cook a meal, just waiting for her to come back and do it. Wifey, rest assured, I will absolutely never be like that, I interjected eagerly. Right now, my job has little work and lots of money. Even if you don't work, I can support you, and if you want, I'll just have Mrs. Higgins keep working for us forever. Listening to this, Seraphina felt a sugary sweetness in her heart, but on the surface, she feigned distress. But Mrs. Higgins's salary is currently paid by my mom. Once I pass my probation period and my job stabilizes, I'll tell our mom that I'll pay Mrs. Higgins's salary from now on, and the rent, I'll definitely be the one paying it too, I said, taking it as a matter of course. Seraphina smiled and beckoned to me with her finger. Come here for a second. What's wrong? I leaned in. Seraphina suddenly reached out, wrapped her arms around my neck, pulled me close, and kissed me on the cheek. I was dumbfounded, never expecting such a wonderful perk. But I reacted quickly, grabbing Seraphina and reversing our positions. What was originally just a peck on the cheek landed squarely on her lips. As our lips and tongues intertwined, an ambiguous wet sound was produced. Seraphina was both shy and flustered, yet found it incredibly sweet. She sat in her wheelchair, eyes closed, head tilted back, allowing me to take what I wanted. When the kiss ended, both of us were panting slightly, especially Seraphina. Her body hadn't fully recovered yet, and the intense emotional fluctuation drained the blood from her previously flushed face, making her look pale. Wifey, are you okay? I panicked. It's all my fault. I knew your health is poor, but I always lose control. Before I could finish, Seraphina reached out and covered my mouth. I just need to rest for a bit. I'll be fine. She paused, a blush creeping back onto her pale face. Actually, I really liked it just now too. At night, Seraphina nestled in my arms, speaking leisurely. You haven't finished telling me about what happened at the company today. You said the director of the finance department personally asked you to take someone out? I nodded. Yeah, wifey. You wouldn't know, but behind her back, people in our company call the finance director the Iron Maiden. Seraphina's body stiffened and she unconsciously started laughing. Thinking about Fiona's personality, the Iron Maiden was incredibly fitting. I continued. I think that Linnea... Wait, hold on. A flash of realization hit me. Linnea's last name is Yu. The finance director's last name is also Yu. Could they be related? Seraphina frowned slightly. Ever since she was diagnosed with depression, she had pushed herself to go to the company at first. But as her mood deteriorated, she simply stopped going. Therefore, she wasn't actually clear on the company's personnel changes. If Fiona had just arranged for a relative to join the company, that wasn't a huge problem. But if she was using her authority to abuse power for Linnea's personal gain... Wifey, are you listening? Seraphina snapped back to reality. What did you say? I took a deep breath. They all don't believe I'm married. How about we take a selfie together? That way, if anyone asks, I'll have proof. Actually, if possible, I wanted to post Seraphina's photo straight to my WeChat moments. But unfortunately, I hadn't smoothed things over with my mom yet, so I genuinely didn't dare. Otherwise, if my mom opened her feed and saw her own biological son acting lovey-dovey with her best friend, her blood pressure would shoot straight to 280. Seraphina, however, stiffened completely, her mind racing. With her hubby's show-off personality, if they took a photo together, within half a day, the entire company, including the stray cats in the parking lot, would know she married him. That would be an utter disaster. Wifey, what do you think? I enthusiastically pulled out my phone, already searching for couples posing ideas. Seraphina's smile was a bit stiff. I don't really like taking pictures, and I don't like being flashy. Let's just drop it, okay? I was a bit disappointed but didn't force it. I changed the subject. Fine, no pictures. I'll bring the marriage certificate to the company tomorrow. I don't believe they can still doubt me after that. Seraphina's smile grew even stiffer, but she didn't say anything, just nodding to vaguely pass it off. Early the next morning, when I woke up, I found that Seraphina had actually gotten out of bed already. I was a bit puzzled. Wifey, why did you wake up so early today? Seraphina slowly walked over and said softly, The doctor said sleeping early and waking up early is good for my health. Oh, Mrs. Higgins has already made breakfast. You should get up too. After breakfast, I started looking for the marriage certificate. But the marriage certificate that I had originally placed in my suitcase was nowhere to be found. I was pulling my hair out. It was clearly right here. How is it gone? Seraphina sat on the side, tilting her head. Maybe you remembered wrong. You're going to be late for work. Just look for it when you get back. I need to bring it to show those flies. A brilliant idea struck me. Wifey, where's yours? Giving me yours is the same thing. Seraphina shook her head. My marriage certificate is with Mom. It's too late to ask her to bring it over now. Hurry up and go to work. Saying that, Seraphina planted a kiss on my cheek. Although I was still unwilling to give up, seeing it was almost time, I could only leave the house somewhat disappointedly. However, as soon as I entered the company, I noticed that the way my colleagues looked at me was very strange. It felt like they were looking at a pervert. Sure enough, a colleague scurried over. Mr. Sterling is looking for you. He said to go to his office immediately once you arrive. I froze, nodding hurriedly. Okay, I'll go right now. At this point, the colleague lowered his voice, flashing a wicked smile. You sly dog, what did you do to Linnea from finance yesterday? She came into the company today with red, swollen eyes, Mr. Sterling looking for you is probably about this. After saying that, he patted my shoulder. May God have mercy on your soul. I pointed at myself, looking incredulous. Me? Do something to Linnea? The colleague chuckled. Didn't you go on fieldwork with her yesterday? You didn't even come back after work. Those who know, but you've got some massive guts. Linnea is the niece of the finance director, and she's the famous beauty of the entire finance department. You actually dared to pull a stunt like that. You are truly the role model of our generation. He gave me a thumbs up. My jaw almost hit the floor. Holy crap, stop spewing nonsense. She left right after we finished the job, and I went home to be with my wife. What could I have possibly done? The colleague curled his lip, looking full of regret. All right, stop making things up. Just pray for yourself. I watched helplessly as the colleague walked away. completely dumbfounded. At this moment, Barnaby popped up out of nowhere, also giving me a thumbs up. Son, you are legendary. You haven't even been at work for a few days, and you've already bullied a female colleague until her eyes are red. Your father bows in defeat. I snapped back to reality and threw a punch at him. Shut your mouth. Do I look like that kind of person? I couldn't be bothered to waste words. I headed straight for Sterling's office. I'm gonna see exactly what kind of drama this is. Meanwhile, inside the office, looking at Fiona sitting there with a stony face, Sterling couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. He lowered his voice. Director, you don't blame me for not warning you. This Kaelen, he's not an ordinary employee. I know. He was personally sent in by the old lady, right? Fiona interrupted him. But so what? Rules are still rules, aren't they? Fiona kept chattering relentlessly, acting like she was determined to get justice for Linnea. Right at this moment, I knocked and walked in. Mr. Sterling, you were looking for me? Seeing me come in, Sterling hurriedly asked, Kaelen, you're finally here. What exactly happened between you and little Linnea yesterday? Why did the girl come back crying so hard her eyes are swollen? As soon as I entered the door, I saw a thoroughly stressed-out Sterling, an ashen-faced Fiona, and Linnea, who had red, swollen eyes but was looking at me with absolute smugness. What kind of chaotic battleground is this? At this time, Fiona said coldly, What did you do to Linnea last night? I leaned back tactically. What do you mean? What did I do to her? I didn't do anything. If you didn't do anything, why did Linnea cry until her eyes swelled? How the hell should I know? I looked strangely at Linnea, accidentally locking eyes with her smug gaze. I instantly lost my temper. Linnea, explain yourself clearly. What exactly did I do to you yesterday? Linnea had kept her mouth shut this whole time until now when she cried out, You hurt my pride. This time not only me but even Sterling was full of question marks. Fiona was also a bit baffled. Linnea, weren't you bullied by him? I was bullied, Linnea said self-righteously. I lowered my standards, took the initiative to show my goodwill and asked him out to dinner. And not only did he reject me, but he kept insisting he had a wife, saying he looked down on people like me. In the end, he wouldn't even drive me home and just ran off by himself. The more she spoke, the more self-righteous she got, even setting aside the fact that we were out on company business and he had a responsibility to drive me home. Even if it was a personal matter, as a man, shouldn't he have at least a shred of gentlemanly grace? I laughed out of sheer anger. First of all, if you show me goodwill, I have to accept it? Who do you think you are? Second, I do have a wife. And even if I didn't, what does it have to do with you? Finally, I slammed my hand on the desk. I am most annoyed by women like you who have zero sense of boundaries. Linnea was stunned by my shouting. However, what she said after she snapped out of it shocked both Fiona and Sterling. At this moment in the office, everyone froze because of Linnea screaming, Fire him! Fiona frowned, analyzing the situation inwardly. Although she was the director of finance and a veteran figure in the company, Kaelen wasn't an ordinary person either. He was personally sent in by the old lady. Could someone like that just be fired? I also belatedly felt a hint of regret. I was too impulsive. I provoked a Delulu princess, and this princess actually had backing. If I ended up losing this hard-to-find job over this, it would be a huge injustice. I still had to make money to support my wife. Thinking of this, I hurriedly looked at Sterling. Mr. Sterling, I didn't do anything wrong. You can't just fire me simply because someone says so. Seeing this, Sterling hurriedly reassured me. Don't be afraid. You are a member of my marketing department. Even if someone were to be fired, it should be my decision. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Linnea almost fainted from anger, stomping her feet furiously and whining to Fiona. Auntie! Originally, Fiona just wanted me to apologize and let the matter pass. She didn't really intend to fire me, but my current attitude, coupled with Sterling's words, sparked her anger. Sterling, is this how you manage your subordinates? Sterling was speechless. Come on, this is your niece's fault, all right? Kaelen already said he's married, and she still insisted on throwing herself at him. Now that she got rejected, she's claiming Kaelen bullied her. Is there any law and order here? What is she, a heavenly fairy? Everyone has to cater to her. Linnea hurriedly said coldly, I don't believe he's married at all. He doesn't have a marriage certificate or a ring, and he can't even produce a single couple's photo. Isn't it obvious he's tricking me? Saying that, she curled her lip. Even if he does have a wife, she definitely can't compare to me. I graduated from a top university, I'm beautiful and I'm capable. Me taking a liking to you is your honor. On what grounds do you reject me? In this moment, Linnea just wanted to regain her lost face and brutally crush my spirit. I couldn't endure it anymore. I slammed my hand on the desk. So what if I'm tricking you? Aren't you annoying? Beautiful and capable, my ass. If you were really capable, your brain wouldn't be completely filled with men. I'll say it one more time. I have a wife. And my wife is hundreds of times prettier than you. You don't even compare to a single one of her pinky toes. Linnea was utterly stupefied by my scolding. When she came back to her senses, she instantly burst into explosive tears. Enough, Fiona glared at Linnea and shouted harshly. Stop crying, haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Then she turned her gaze to me. And you just publicly insulted a colleague right in front of me. Given that the circumstances are extremely severe and the impact is extremely negative, you are fired. Pack your things and get the hell out. Seeing that Fiona was serious, Sterling started to panic. Hey, director, you can't handle things like this. Did you ask for my opinion before firing my person? Besides, Kaelen is. I don't care who he is, Fiona interrupted Sterling before he could finish. Our Seraphina tech doesn't need someone who disrespects women and publicly insults colleagues like this. Of course, she knew what Sterling wanted to say, but the old lady had retired to the second line of command long ago, and the chairman was sick. She refused to believe that after following the chairman for over 10 years she would be punished over such a trivial matter. Thinking of this, Fiona felt much more secure in her heart. Seeing me standing there without moving, Fiona immediately said coldly, "What? Do you need me to call security to throw you out?" Linnea broke into a smile through her tears, looking at me smugly. "Now you know you were wrong, right?" Seeing this, I let out a cold laugh, turned around and swaggered out. Sterling panicked. "Hey, Kaelen, wait a second." Seeing that I wouldn't turn back, he could only look at Fiona. "Director, look at the mess you've made. Firing him just like that. Aren't you afraid of angering the old lady?" Fiona looked indifferent. "The old lady? She stepped back from the front lines ages ago." Hearing this, Sterling was enraged and decided to wash his hands of it. "Fine, you're the one who fired him anyway. If the old lady asks, it has nothing to do with me." Back in the office, I started packing my things. Seeing me like this, Barnaby was stunned and quickly asked what was going on. I recounted everything exactly as it happened. Once Barnaby understood, he was furious. He was just about to go argue with them, but I held him back. "Forget it. You know exactly what kind of status Fiona has. She's the chairman's person. Firing an intern like me is as easy as breathing for her." Saying that, I turned around coolly. "Good son, work hard. If I can't find a job for a while, I'll have to rely on you to feed me." Watching me leave, Barnaby could only sigh helplessly. "Don't worry. With my high salary, supporting you won't be a problem." When I went to return the car keys to Sterling, he hesitated to speak for a long time. Finally, he just patted my shoulder. "Kaelen, I'm sorry. It's just that Fiona has a good relationship with the chairman." My hands were completely tied. "But don't worry. Go home and rest for a few days. I'll contact a friend's company and definitely arrange a decent job for you." Sterling was mentally calculating like crazy. No matter what, this kid definitely had some connection to the old lady. Now that he was fired, it was hard to say if the old lady would intervene. But doing him a solid favor first was definitely the right move. I felt a bit moved. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling." When I got downstairs, Linnea was actually waiting at the company entrance. I didn't even look at her, just bypassed her and kept walking. "Don't go." Linnea blocked my path, looking exasperated. "Do you regret it now?" I stopped and looked at her sideways. "Regret? Regret what?" Linnea instantly got smug. "Hee, too late for regrets now. But if you agree to be my boyfriend right now, I'll go find my aunt and let you stay. You don't want to end up jobless, right?" "Stop, stop, stop!" I cut Linnea off directly. "What I regret is that my scolding just now was way too gentle." "What did you say?" Linnea's face twisted in anger. After a long while, she only managed to squeeze out the word "you," and then started crying from anger again. I, however, was in a fantastic mood, humming a tune as I swaggered away. But after leaving the company, I started facing reality. Just yesterday, I confidently promised my wife that my salary was high and I could support the family, telling her to just relax at home. Now, in the blink of an eye, I was fired. If I had known, I would have just swallowed my pride. I sighed. After wandering around outside for a bit, I decided not to tell Seraphina about losing my job for now. After all, Seraphina's health was poor. Telling her would only make her worry, with absolutely no benefit. Having made up my mind, I ran straight to the talent market and started hitting up companies one by one to find a job. Coincidentally, Seraphina's cousin Valerie happened to drive past. "Isn't that Kaelen?" Valerie looked through her car window at me walking in, frowning. "What is he doing here?" Suspicious, Valerie parked the car and secretly followed me. When she realized I was there looking for a job, she was completely bewildered. She originally wanted to go up and ask what happened, but ultimately changed her mind and called Seraphina directly instead. Over here, I spent the whole day soaking in the talent market. I stubbornly waited until standard clock-out time before heading home. Standing at the front door, I took a deep breath before opening it. "Wifey, I'm home!" My voice was incredibly upbeat, showing absolutely zero signs of being unemployed. Seraphina, who was sitting on the sofa reading a book, saw me return. She put down the book and asked tentatively, "Why are you home so late today?" "Late?" I feigned confusion. "Isn't it usually around this time? I only get off work at 6. "Wifey, let me tell you, when I was at work today, I almost made a huge fool of myself." I babbled on, racking my brain to invent office anecdotes while changing my shoes, trying my utmost to pretend everything was normal. At first, Seraphina was a bit puzzled, but she quickly figured it out. Hubby just doesn't want me to worry. He was clearly fired, yet he has to pretend nothing happened and secretly go job hunting to shoulder everything himself. Thinking of this, Seraphina suddenly felt her nose sting, but mostly she felt moved and infuriated. This time, Fiona went way too far. At night, I continued my routine of washing Seraphina's feet, massaging them, and coaxing her to sleep. I, however, didn't fall into a deep sleep until well past midnight. After I was fast asleep, Seraphina opened her eyes. In the darkness, Seraphina's voice was very soft. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Early the next morning, after breakfast, I put on a highly energetic facade. Wifey, I'm off to work. Be careful on the road. I'll be waiting for you to come home. Seraphina smiled and waved. As soon as I stepped out the door, my face crumbled. Time to go play the obedient grandson at the talent market again. But no matter what, for my wife, I had to go all out. The talent market in the morning was incredibly bustling, packed with job seekers. I squeezed in among the crowd, handing out resumes left and right, so busy I didn't even notice my phone ringing several times. Meanwhile, at Seraphina Biological Tech Group, why isn't he answering the phone? Fiona glared at her phone, seething with frustration. She originally thought firing an intern was no big deal, but she never expected to receive a call from the chairman in the middle of the night. And the usually gentle chairman actually completely lost her temper for the first time, demanding she get the person back no matter what. Although the chairman didn't specify the consequences of failing to get him back, she could clearly sense that if she didn't handle this well, the outcome could be very dire. Of course, Fiona had also tried to probe into my identity, but all she got in return was an order to find him immediately before the phone was hung up on her. Left with no choice, she could only call me. However, the calls wouldn't connect at all. The more Fiona thought about it, the more agitated she became. She slapped her hand on the desk and pointed at someone nearby. You, go get that guy named Barnaby from the marketing department in here. When Barnaby found out Fiona was looking for him, he was completely confused, but didn't delay and hurried over. Director, you were looking for me? Can you contact Kaelen? Barnaby was stunned. You're looking for Kaelen. Didn't you fire him? What's going on? Kicking him out of the company wasn't satisfying enough. You want to drag him back to punish him some more? This is bullying too far. I have business with him. He's not answering his phone. Help me contact him. Fiona's voice pulled Barnaby back to reality. Barnaby paused for a second, a surge of anger rising in his heart. Your niece liked Kaelen. He didn't like her back and rejected her. He didn't lead her on either. There's no need to take it this far, is there? Fiona's expression stiffened, suddenly feeling her face burn. Regarding this matter, she actually knew deep down that she was in the wrong. But she was unmarried and had no children. Linnea was like her own daughter. How could she watch Linnea suffer a grievance? But now look what happened. The chairman personally gave the order to bring him back. Her reputation was completely ruined. But even if she lost face, the task still had to be done. Fiona took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. I have official business to discuss with him. It's not about driving him into a corner. Just contact him first. Barnaby's temper flared. No way! Who knows if you just want to humiliate him again? You little... Fiona was so angry she instinctively wanted to explode, but ultimately held it back, speaking through gritted teeth. It's not to humiliate him. I want to invite him back to the company to work. Is that good enough? Ah? Really? You aren't tricking me? Barnaby fired off 3 soul-searching questions. Fiona gritted her teeth and nodded. Barnaby finally breathed a sigh of relief and joyfully dialed my number. At this moment inside the talent market, I had visited 10 companies in a row, and all of them told me to go back and wait for news. Just as I was contemplating whether I should go deliver food, my phone rang. I pulled it out and answered Barnaby's call. Kaelen, where the hell did you run off to? Why haven't you been answering your phone? Job hunting, duh. Where else? I sighed. After all, I still had to make money to support my wife. Barnaby rolled his eyes. Here we go again. All right, hurry back to the company. After Barnaby left, Fiona called Linnea in. As soon as Linnea entered the office. Auntie, what's wrong? You still have the nerve to ask what's wrong? Fiona had a belly full of fire with nowhere to vent. Seeing Linnea, she couldn't hold back anymore. Thinking of what the chairman had said, she was incredibly frustrated. She didn't even know what kind of background that guy had to make the normally gentle chairman so furious. If she didn't know the chairman's personality better, she would have even suspected that I was a sugar baby kept by the chairman. Linnea had always been spoiled. Being yelled at, her eyes instantly turned red. Auntie, you were the one who told me that if I liked a guy at the company, I should bravely pursue him. Is this how you pursue someone? Fiona slammed her hand on the desk. Besides, he already said he was married. I don't believe it. Linnea lifted her chin. Who gets married without even a single couple's photo? It's obvious he's tricking me. Fiona almost vomited blood from sheer anger. At this time, Linnea got curious again. What's going on anyway? You already fired him. Why bring him up again? Why? Fiona took a deep breath, suppressing her fury. That Kaelen has backing. The guy I fired yesterday, the chairman called me that very same night. Now she's ordering me to get him back. If I can't get him back, I might as well take early retirement. Linnea gasped in shock. The chairman? Her eyes gleamed with gossip. Auntie, I remember the chairman is like you. She's never been married, right? Kaelen is so handsome. Could he be a sugar baby the chairman is keeping? I just rejected a Delulu princess colleague's confession and got directly fired by company leadership. But what they didn't know is that my vegetative wife who just woke up is actually the CEO who hasn't shown her face at the company in ages. The leader who fired me was dumbfounded. She fired me in the morning and got an accountability call from the CEO in the middle of the night. At this moment, listening to Barnaby's words on the phone, I was frozen in place. What? Fired me yesterday and today inviting me back. Are they psychos? Barnaby urged. Whatever the case, being able to go back is a good thing. Hurry up. I'm waiting for you to come back so we can game together during lunch break. I mumbled a few vague replies and hung up, then fell into deep thought. What kind of medicine is Fiona selling in her gourd? Or is it that Linnea isn't willing to give up, and is taking the initiative to give me a way to step down gracefully? But if I didn't go back, finding a job was truly too difficult. After thinking it over, I ultimately decided I wouldn't go back to suffer that indignity. Meanwhile, in the finance director's office, Linnea was looking at Fiona with a face full of gossip. Auntie, I remember the chairman has always been unmarried just like you, right? Kaelen is so handsome. Could he be a sugar baby the chairman is keeping? The more she spoke, the more she felt she had guessed right. Otherwise, how could a newbie get assigned a car and a private office right after joining, along with such a high salary? Fiona said irritably. Impossible. I've followed the chairman for so many years. Nobody knows her better than I do. Besides, if the chairman really had those kinds of desires, she wouldn't have ended up with depression. Hearing this, Linnea curled her lip. Well, fine. But since the chairman wants him back, you can just call him, right? Our Seraphina tax benefits are so good. You just have to wave your hand, and he'll come running back to work wagging his tail like a dog. I already called! He didn't even pick up! Fiona said, looking at Linnea coldly. You caused this mess. It's your responsibility to bring him back. I don't care what method you use. You must invite him back to work tomorrow. No matter how much she doted on Linnea, it still couldn't compare to her own interests. Linnea was dumbfounded. Auntie, you know I offended him. Since you offended him, go apologize! Fiona cut her off directly, then shooed her out of the office. In the afternoon, Barnaby was waiting in the office for me to return. Instead of me, he ended up waiting for Linnea. As soon as Linnea entered the door, she demanded arrogantly, You're Kaelen's friend, right? Barnaby was startled, but instantly realized who she was. What a delulu princess. Linnea frowned, looking impatient. Where is Kaelen? Didn't my aunt tell him to come back to work? Why hasn't he shown up all day? Call him and rush him. Barnaby laughed out of pure exasperation. Sorry, I don't have time. At this moment, he finally understood why I hadn't come back. With this kind of bossy, entitled attitude, who could tolerate it? Seeing this, Linnea said angrily, My aunt has already spoken, and he still refuses to come back. What, does he think having connections makes him amazing? Barnaby curled his lip. Oh, it absolutely makes him amazing. After all, your aunt is just a finance director, and you can already use her authority to play the tyrant and publicly harass other colleagues. You! Linnea stomped her feet in fury. Whatever, I don't care. Call Kaelen right now and tell him to come back to work. Barnaby rolled his eyes. I'm not listening. What you gonna do about it? If you have the guts, get your aunt to fire me too. Barnaby was also taking a very hard line now. He refused to believe it. Fiona fired me on her front foot and was desperately trying to get me back on her back foot. At a critical juncture like this, would she dare to fire him too? Unsurprisingly, Linnea's lungs practically exploded from anger, but she didn't dare to make any more harsh threats. She could only grit her teeth and leave. Barnaby immediately pulled out his phone and called me. Kaelen, why didn't you come back to the company today? That Delulu princess came looking for me, telling me to call you back to work. You're not actually planning on throwing away such a good job and never coming back, are you? When I received Barnaby's call, I had just walked out of the talent market. Hearing Barnaby's words, I let out a sneer. Go back. Go back to do what? Do I not have any dignity? Don't think I don't know. That Iron Maiden Fiona telling me to go back is 80% because that Delulu princess threw a tantrum, wanting to give me a little taste of sweetness. If I go back under these circumstances, I'll be completely bowing down to them. Isn't that just being a live-in son-in-law? To hell with that. Barnaby started cursing. If you can't find another job, I'm gonna have to support you. Seriously though, from how they looked, it didn't seem like they wanted you as a sugar baby. Why don't you come back first and see? I curled my lip. If she wasn't drooling over my handsome looks, would someone like her bow her head? I'm not going back. Worst case, I'll deliver takeout while looking for my next job. At the very least, supporting my family won't be a problem. Barnaby sighed. Fine, fine. If you won't come back, you won't. Hold on a bit longer. When I get my salary, I'll split it with you. I laughed. Then I'll be waiting for it. After hanging up, I saw it was about time, so I hurried home. At the dinner table, I acted as calm and composed as usual, racking my brain to invent amusing office anecdotes to tell Seraphina. Seraphina, however, saw through my abnormality at a glance. After dinner, when I went to wash the dishes, she took out her phone and sent a message. The next day, I went out as usual, pretending to go to work. But unexpectedly, just outside the neighborhood gate, I received a call. Bro, where are you? Barnaby's helpless voice came through. Hurry up and get over to my apartment. Save me! I froze, hurriedly asking what happened. Fiona showed up at my door. She insists on seeing you. She's blocking my door right now and won't let me leave. Hearing this, I understood. It seemed that if we didn't clear this up, Fiona wouldn't let this go, and if I didn't handle it well, it might even implicate Barnaby. Thinking of this, I hailed a taxi and rushed straight to Barnaby's apartment. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Barnaby squatting next to an Audi, his face looking as bitter as a bitter melon. Seeing me arrive, Barnaby immediately jumped up. Holy crap, you finally made it! I lowered my voice. Where is she? Barnaby tilted his chin toward the Audi, his voice even lower, his face looking awful. Pray for yourself. I'm going to work. Before I could reply, Barnaby took off running like a greased pig. Damn it, zero loyalty. I had just finished cursing when the car window rolled down. Fiona looked at me. Get in, look at that attitude. I rolled my eyes. Auntie, I'm begging you, I'm not worthy of your niece. You fired me, and I packed up and rolled out. Please stop harassing me, okay? And definitely don't harass my bro. The word auntie instantly turned Fiona's face a ghastly shade of iron. She even birthed the impulse to slam the gas pedal and run me over, but ultimately she suppressed it. Fiona squeezed a sentence through her teeth. Get in the car first, then we'll talk. Your niece isn't in the car, is she? I poked my head in to look around. The day before yesterday, I didn't even touch her, and she claimed I bullied her. If she's in the car, and you aunt and niece duo gang up to frame me, even if I jump into the Yellow River, I won't be able to wash myself clean. Fiona's lungs were about to explode. I am the only one in the car. I'm telling you to get in to discuss returning to the company. It has absolutely nothing to do with Linnea. And asking you to return to the company doesn't mean forcing you to date her. I raised an eyebrow. Well, even if you don't force it, no matter how much you talk, it's impossible for me to accept her. Fiona was on the verge of going berserk. I already said it has nothing to do with her. Watching her face flush bright red, I thought about it and finally got in the car. After all, I couldn't really let this issue drag Barnaby down. After getting in, Fiona slammed the gas pedal and the car shot out like an arrow from a bowstring. I was startled. Hey, you aren't going to murder-suicide me just because I rejected your niece, are you? Can you shut up? Fine, you focus on driving. It wasn't until the car was quite a distance away that Fiona finally calmed down. She took a deep breath and said seriously, I asked you to return to work. Why didn't you go back? I curled my lip. A true man can be killed but not humiliated. If I went back, wouldn't that mean I was bowing my head to you guys? Today you use a job to force me to date Linnea. Next time are you going to force me to marry her? How can I swallow that kind of grievance? Fiona closed her eyes, her molars practically grinding to dust. Come back to work. I guarantee Linnea will never harass you again. She won't even appear in front of you. Is that enough? I was somewhat skeptical. You asking me to return to work? Are you really not trying to force me to date Linnea? Little did I know, Fiona was also extremely puzzled. She didn't understand why the chairman, whose mind had always been solely focused on work, would suddenly care about a young kid fresh out of society. Could it be the chairman really had a change of heart? Fiona shook her head, tossing the thought away. Others might not know, but she understood the chairman perfectly. Expecting the chairman to date was harder than a dead tree blooming flowers. Not to mention, the target was a hot-headed kid like this. Thinking this, Fiona let out a long breath and said, whatever the case, just come back. What happened before was my fault. I apologize to you. I started contemplating seriously. To be honest, I really needed a job. And the job at Seraphina Tech was indeed perfect. Are you sure your niece won't come harass me again? Fiona squeezed 2 words through her teeth. I'm sure. Furthermore, as soon as we get back, I will transfer her away. I will never let her appear in front of you again. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Well, that's more like it. Perfect timing. You can drive me back to the company. The day before yesterday you kicked me out, and today I'm returning in your car. Face and dignity, I got both back. Not a bad deal. Fiona took a deep breath and stopped talking. As the car fell silent, the atmosphere suddenly became a bit awkward. Of course, I wasn't awkward. I was busy studying the Audi I was sitting in. After looking around, I concluded, not as good as the SU7 the company assigned me. Thinking of the SU7, I immediately spoke up. Before I left, the company assigned me a car. Now that I'm back, does the car still belong to me? Fiona endured it again and again. It's all yours. He had merely been resigned for a single day, and it prompted several phone calls from the chairman. Could they really afford not to give him the assigned car? Just what exactly is the relationship between this kid and the chairman? Fiona racked her brain and suddenly a flash of inspiration hit her. Calculating the age, could this kid be a mistake the chairman made when she was young? Thinking of this, Fiona whipped her head around to look at me, right as I happened to look over as well. As our eyes met, Fiona looked at my clear eyes and handsome features, and suddenly felt her face grow hot. She quickly averted her gaze in a panic. I, however, was muttering in my heart. I heard this Fiona is already 40 this year, but she maintains herself looking like a young wife in her early 30s. Though compared to my precious wife, she's still several grades lower. Thinking of my wife Seraphina, I couldn't help but smile. And Fiona, looking at my smile, suddenly felt her heartbeat skip a beat. Then she started reprimanding herself inwardly. Fiona, oh Fiona, what are you thinking? This kid is just a greenhorn fresh out of society. He might even be the chairman's son. Why are you thinking all this nonsense? But Fiona thought to this point and started observing me again. Do I have dirt on my face? Just focus on driving. Don't keep staring at me. Even if you don't want to live, I don't want to die. My voice pulled Fiona back to reality. Fiona was startled and hurriedly said, I was looking at the rearview mirror. Who's looking at you? Saying that, she quickly changed the subject. Where is your hometown? Hearing this, I instantly became vigilant. Aha! Look, I called it. You say you don't want to play matchmaker for me and your niece, and now you're asking where I'm from. Let me tell you, I will never submit. I have my own wife. My wife is gentle, beautiful, and looks like a heavenly fairy. She is absolutely incomparable to your Princess Syndrome niece. Fiona's face flushed red, then pale. In her heart, she cursed Linnea bloody. You misunderstood. Fiona raised her voice. I was just making casual conversation. I said I'd transfer Linny away, and I absolutely will. What are you worried about? Only then did I sigh in relief. Considering Fiona's status, I still answered, I'm from Cheng County. Cheng County? Fiona was shocked. Cheng County in Chengyang City? If she remembered correctly, the chairman's hometown was also Cheng County. It was only later that the whole family moved to Binhai City. Could this Kaelen really be the chairman's biological son? But the chairman maintains herself looking like a girl nearing 30. Whether it's her personality or her physique, she doesn't look like someone who's had a child. Fiona was completely perplexed. She simply asked again, then what are your parents' names? That's enough. I got anxious. Asking about my hometown is one thing. Now you're asking about my parents. Are you doing a background check for your niece? Fiona also realized her slip. She felt a bit awkward, but also infuriated. That wretched girl had truly made her lose all face. Seeing this, I curled my lip, not wanting to burn the bridge completely. I sighed and said, wait until you actually transfer her away before we talk. You investigating me like this is very scary. Fiona was exasperated, deciding simply to stop talking and focus entirely on driving, all the way to the company. As soon as I got out of the car, I instantly drew countless gazes. It was currently clock-in time, and all the colleagues were hurrying in from home. Suddenly seeing me, the sounds of sharp inhales rose and fell. Whoa! Isn't that the super awesome newbie from the marketing department? Wasn't he fired? Why is he here today? And he got out of the Iron Maiden's car. The Iron Maiden personally went to invite him back? What kind of background does this guy have? I bet he caved. After all, setting aside her temper, the little princess is still pretty good looking. The sounds of gossip were endless, making Fiona's face turn incredibly stony. I got out of the car, then poked my head back in. Director Yu, remember to transfer your niece away. Fiona gritted her teeth. I don't need you to remind me. At this moment, Fiona deeply regretted her actions. She miscalculated. If she had known, she would have just driven straight into the underground parking garage. After Fiona left, a bolder colleague immediately scurried over. Bro, are you back to work? I nodded. The colleague instantly gave a thumbs up. Legend. Fired on your front foot, back on your back foot, and the Iron Maiden personally went to pick you up. What's the deal? Did you agree to be the little princess's boyfriend? I grinned, shaking my head. Give me a break. Even if I starved to death, I would never date someone like her. Not the little princess? The colleague's eyes widened. Then don't tell me you hooked up with the Iron Maiden? At this moment, while I was happily returning to work at the company, little did I know the finance department had already exploded. You're transferring me to a branch office? Linnea stared at Fiona, both shocked and furious. On what grounds? Are you even my real aunt? Fiona felt agitated. Who told you to go around offending people you shouldn't? Kaelen said it himself. If I want him back at work, he can't ever see you in the company again. If you don't go to the branch office, do you want to be fired? Fiona was losing her temper by the end. She was already frustrated from being misunderstood by outsiders as keeping me as a sugar baby, and her own biological niece was just adding to her troubles. Linnea also got angry. Who the hell does Kaelen think he is? Just a newly hired intern. You are a company veteran, even the chairman has to call you sister. Can you really be afraid of a mere intern? Saying this, Linnea's gaze swept over Fiona suspiciously. Or is it like what they're saying? You actually have the hots for Kaelen too? But before she could finish her sentence, a slap landed squarely on her face. Shut your mouth! Fiona was trembling with anger. Linnea, I'm unmarried. I treated you like my own biological daughter. I paid for your education and managed your career. And now you repay me with a sentence like that? Do you have a conscience? Linnea was slapped silly. You actually hit me? I hate you. Linnea turned to run, but Fiona grabbed her firmly. Trade it as if I failed to educate you properly in the past. I accept that. But today, you must give me a clear answer. Are you resigning, or are you going to the branch office? She saw it clearly now. This niece was unreliable. Since that was the case, protecting her own job was the most important thing. Linnea looked at her aunt with tears streaming down her face, filled with hatred. I quit! Saying that, Linnea turned and walked away. But after a few steps, she turned back and glared at Fiona. Don't think I don't know, you just think Kaelen is handsome. Now for him, you even chased me away. I hate you! Watching Linnea slam the door and leave, Fiona collapsed into her office chair, as if all her strength had been drained. A bitter smile crept onto her face. The logic of a grain of rice earns gratitude, a bushel earns enmity. She saw it with absolute clarity today. After resting for a long while, Fiona picked up her phone and dialed a number. Chairman Kaelen has already returned to the company to work. After reporting the situation, Fiona pinched the bridge of her nose. Ultimately, she couldn't resist asking about my identity. The other end of the phone remained silent for a long time. Do not interfere in this matter anymore. Unless he commits a principled error, I do not wish to see this kind of situation happen again. Hearing this, Fiona froze. Ultimately, before she could even say another word, the call was disconnected. Time flew by and the weekend arrived. Seraphina and I prepared to go to the hospital for her follow-up checkup. Today, Seraphina wore a white knit sweater and pink trousers, her whole being radiating an aura of mature charm. Looking at her, I couldn't help but doubt myself again. Was the reason I remained single all these years because I actually preferred older women? When we got downstairs, a kid came charging over, Before I could dodge, he tripped and fell, instantly bursting into loud wails. Seraphina was startled. I quickly helped the kid up and patted the dust off him. Stop crying now. A true man doesn't cry over a little fall. Don't drop your little pearls. Hearing this, the little boy immediately broke into a smile. Thank you, big brother. Watching the little boy return to his mother, Seraphina unexpectedly felt a sliver of yearning in her heart. Seeing me act so gently toward the child just now stirred something within her. She blurted out subconsciously, Kaelen, do you like kids? Kids? I paused, instinctively wanting to say I like them. But when I looked at the fine layer of sweat on Seraphina's forehead and her slightly pale face, I couldn't help but sigh and shake my head. No, I don't like them. With Seraphina's physical condition, having a child was out of the question for at least 2 years. She was too weak and simply couldn't bear the risks of pregnancy. Hearing my answer, Seraphina felt a bit disappointed, murmuring, You don't like them, huh? I hurriedly grabbed her hand. What's so good about kids? They're noisy. They waste time and they waste money. A 4-legged gold-swallowing beast is no joke. Seraphina didn't want to force me, so she followed my lead and changed the subject. The two of us soon arrived at the hospital. As soon as we got out of the car, we saw Elara and Valerie waiting. Mom? Cousin? Why are you guys here? Seraphina was a bit surprised. Seeing this, I explained, I sent them a message. You're here for a follow-up today, and they've always been worried about your health, so they came along. Sarah, how is your body feeling now? Elara held Seraphina's hands, looking her up and down continuously. Ever since Seraphina moved in with me and said she wanted to experience a private 2-person world, Elara hadn't disturbed us, only calling occasionally to chat. Valerie teased from the side, Auntie, look at Sarah's face, it has so much more meat on it than before. You just know Kaelen has been taking great care of her. I felt a bit shy. Sarah is my wife, taking care of her is perfectly natural. The group chatted and laughed as they entered the hospital. The follow-up required a full-body checkup. Elara and Valerie accompanied Seraphina, while I ran up and down paying fees and picking up medicine. Valerie sighed with emotion. Sarah, how do you feel after living together all this time? Seraphina's pretty face flushed slightly, answering with shy bashfulness. It's pretty good. Ooh la la, she's actually acting shy. Valerie giggled and started teasing her. Auntie, look! Sarah actually knows how to be shy now. Completely different from the aloof female CEO of the past. Elara also joined in the laughter. Seraphina felt even more embarrassed, but Valerie showed absolutely no intention of letting her off the hook. She suddenly lowered her voice. Sarah, do you guys sleep together at night now? Seraphina was startled and instantly lowered her head. Her ears and neck turned completely red and her voice dropped so low it was almost inaudible. Cousin, what are you talking about? This is serious business. Valerie grabbed her hand, her expression turning solemn. Even though you guys are husband and wife now, your body is still so weak, and Kaelen is young and strong. You absolutely cannot mess around. Valerie spoke with earnest gravity. You can't just throw caution to the wind after being coaxed with a few sweet words. What if you get pregnant? How could your body handle it? Elara also realized the severity of the issue and nodded in agreement. Your cousin is right, Sarah. Other things can slide, but you must pay attention to this. If you ask me, until your body is fully recovered, you two still need to sleep in separate rooms. With the two of them chattering away, Seraphina felt she couldn't lift her head at all. Mom, cousin, what nonsense are you talking about? Although Kaelen and I sleep in the same bed, he respects me very much. Although Seraphina said this with her mouth, scenes unconsciously flashed through her mind. During this time, every night I would wash her feet, massage her, and then hold her while we slept. Although there were occasionally moments of intense infatuation, I managed to hit the brakes every single time. Instead, it was her. Thinking of certain moments where she was left teased and hanging, Seraphina was instantly so shy she couldn't speak, her fingers almost twisting her shirt hem to shreds. Elara and Valerie exchanged a glance, both seeing pure disbelief in each other's eyes. Just as they were about to say more, they saw me jogging over. Wifey, the test results are out! The doctor told us to go over. As if granted amnesty, Seraphina sprang up and hurriedly linked her arm through mine. Watching Seraphina's fleeing posture, Elara and Valerie spontaneously exchanged a knowing smile. Seraphina's follow-up results were ideal. So ideal that even the doctor was a bit shocked. Pointing at the x-rays, the doctor said, based on the current situation, at most half a month and you'll be completely free of the wheelchair. You'll be able to run and jump just like a normal person. That's wonderful! Elara and Valerie were moved to tears. Seraphina was also pleasantly surprised. Now she had completely lost any suicidal thoughts. She wanted to live. She wanted to be with me forever. She even wanted to bear me a child. And her body's recovery meant all of this was possible. I, however, still leaned in toward the doctor. Doctor, can you prescribe some more tonics for my wife? Her body is too weak. I'm worried her immune system isn't strong enough. Hearing this, the doctor put on a stern expression. You young people are just too impatient. Don't you understand that all medicine has some toxicity? The patient still needs to recover slowly. Seraphina's pretty face blushed. She shot me a shy, reproachful glance, then quickly looked at the doctor. Although she didn't speak, the doctor understood the meaning in her eyes. The doctor nodded helplessly. I'll write a prescription to nourish her chi and blood. You guys remember to pick up the medicine later. Seraphina's face flushed even redder. She couldn't help but tighten her grip on my arm. Seeing this, Elara and Valerie exchanged a look, both realizing what was going on. After I went to pick up the medicine, Valerie was the first to speak. Sarah, looks like you've completely set your heart on him. Seraphina didn't answer but gave an imperceptible nod. Valerie's expression grew more serious. Sarah, actually, Auntie and I can both see that Kaelen is truly sincere towards you. But life isn't playing house. Since you've made up your mind, you have to consider the future. Saying that, Valerie pulled out a document. What's this? Seraphina took the document, slightly startled. Valerie explained, I had someone look into it. Kaelen's family background isn't destitute, but it's definitely not wealthy. Before she could finish, she was cut off. Seraphina smiled shyly. I know what his family is like. You don't need to investigate. As for why, you'll know in the future. Valerie froze, her brows furrowing. Setting aside his family background, regarding your own identity, when do you plan to tell him? And how do you plan to say it? Seraphina smiled slightly. There's no rush for that. We'll take it slowly. I don't want people calling him a gold digger, so I don't plan to reveal my identity for the time being. Valerie breathed a sigh of relief. It's fantastic that you can think like this. Your cousin was just worried you'd be so dizzy with love that you wouldn't care about anything else, Seraphina said playfully. Cousin, am I that kind of person? Who knows? After all, before this, I never imagined that the grand female CEO would actually blush and act shy. Cousin, if you keep saying that, I'm ignoring you. Oh my, call you shy and you actually get shy. While the sisters were laughing together, Elara suddenly spoke up. Sarah, there's something else I need to tell you. Elara's solemn demeanor made Seraphina a bit nervous. Right now, what she hoped for most was that her mother and I would get along well. Elara held Seraphina's hands and said earnestly, actually, when Mom first approached him, I could feel that he didn't really want to agree to the warding off bad luck marriage. But he ultimately agreed, clearly out of sympathy for this old woman. And now, not only has he taken such great care of you, but he even refused to accept the remaining $900,000 we agreed upon. So, we absolutely cannot mistreat him. Hearing her mother say this, the heart Seraphina had suspended finally settled down. Mom, don't worry, I know that. Valerie also chimed in with a tease. Auntie, you're worrying for nothing. She can't wait to hand over her entire net worth to him? Valerie was about to say more, but she saw me walking over with the medicine. She immediately changed her tune and chuckled. All right, I won't delay you newlyweds' date any longer. Leaving the hospital, I held Seraphina's hand and suggested, the weather is so nice today, let's go to Bayun Mountain to enjoy the scenery. Seraphina smiled and nodded in agreement. Now that her body had recovered significantly, she also wanted to go out more. On the way, the laughter in the car never stopped. Soon we arrived at Bayun Mountain. The two of us held hands, slowly walking up the mountain. Because it was Sunday, there were quite a few people climbing the mountain, including many parents with their children. The mountain path was very lively. Seraphina held my hand, suddenly recalling the scene when she came here with Valerie last time. Back then, she hadn't yet decided whether to get to know me, her heart full of confusion. And now, she was already with me, and we had even been living together for so long. Thinking of this, Seraphina felt an unparalleled sweetness in her heart. Right at this moment, I suddenly let go of her hand and quickened my pace. Seraphina was startled, only to see me bend down and pick something up from the side of the road. When I returned, I had a small pink flower in my hand. I reached out and tucked the flower behind Seraphina's ear. Seraphina lowered her head slightly, a bit shy. I admired my masterpiece. Wifey, do you know what I'm thinking right now? What? The person is even more delicate than the flower. So annoying! The two of us continued walking up the mountain, chatting and laughing. Soon, we arrived at Nengrin Temple. Seraphina was already breathing a bit unevenly. I felt my heart ache and said, Wifey, let's rest for a bit. Seraphina nodded, but the very next second, she shook her head vigorously, grabbed me and pulled me to the side. What's wrong? I was startled. However, before I could say anything else, Seraphina tightly embraced me, tilted her head up and kissed me. Many people nearby cast sidelong glances, but most were friendly. After all, it's very common for young couples to share a kiss while hiking. I, however, felt my teeth being pried open, my entire body going stiff. During this time, although we had been sharing a bed and had bedtime kisses, every single time it was me taking the initiative, and Seraphina had always been incredibly shy. Even the occasional time she initiated, well, situations like today were a first. But my shock only lasted a moment before I wrapped my arms around Seraphina and took control. Just as we were getting a bit lost in the moment, a man from a family of 3 nearby tapped his wife. Wife, look, doesn't that look like our chairman? The woman took one look and playfully scolded him. Although she looks a bit like her, our chairman isn't that thin. Plus, isn't she sick in the hospital? Besides, the chairman always cares about her image the most. How could she possibly be making out with someone in broad daylight? Hearing this, the man turned around and continued walking. True, guess I saw wrong. Let's go. It wasn't until that family walked far away that Seraphina finally let go of me. The prolonged kiss left her slightly oxygen-deprived, her face turning pale. I, however, was both shocked and overjoyed. Wifey, why were you so proactive today? Seraphina leaned weakly against me, speaking with some difficulty. I want to go home, let's go down the mountain, okay? I nodded without hesitation. Okay, I'll carry you down. The next day, I had just entered the office when someone knocked on the door. Kaelen, the general manager is looking for you. Watching the retreating back of the beautiful female secretary, I was completely baffled. But Barnaby instantly perked up. General manager? Has even the general manager fallen under the spell of your suit trousers? I glared at Barnaby. I can't be bothered with your nonsense. I'm going to see the GM. Barnaby raised his voice. If you strike it rich, don't forget your bros. Good son? I quickened my pace, heading straight for the 9th floor where the general manager's office was located. Looking at the elevator buttons, I suddenly remembered the chairman who shared the exact same name as Seraphina. I never expected there to be such a coincidence in the world. When I first heard my precious wife's name, I thought she just happened to share the same name as my mom's bestie. It wasn't until I saw her in person that I realized they were actually the exact same person. With a ding from the elevator, I snapped out of my thoughts and hurried out. I saw the person who looked like a secretary walking over. I am the general manager's secretary, Maya. Just call me Secretary Maya. I nodded, probing tentatively. Hello, Secretary Maya. What does the general manager want to see me about? Maya smiled. You'll know once you see the general manager. Anyway, it's a good thing. After saying that, she led me inside. Soon Maya knocked on the office door. General Manager Kaelen has arrived. Come in. A cool, clear voice came from inside the office. As soon as I entered, I saw a woman around 30 sitting at the desk. She was currently buried in her work, her 10 fingers flying across the keyboard with a rapid clack-clack sound. I was a bit amazed. The grand general manager of the company is actually this young? And she worked so hard. No wonder she got to this position. While thinking this, I looked around the room. General Manager Veronica Thorne was still typing away, but from the corner of her eye, she had been observing me the entire time. However, the more she looked, the more confused she got. What exactly did this kid do to win the chairman's favor? Surely it can't just be because of his good looks, but I have to admit, he really is incredibly handsome. Could the chairman actually be into this type? Veronica muttered inwardly. I finally finished looking around the office and noticing the gaze resting on me, I looked up, just in time to lock eyes with Veronica. She's genuinely quite pretty. I gave a mental thumbs up. Veronica quickly adjusted her facial expression and said calmly, Kaelen, you've been with the company for a while now. How do you feel? Are you adapting well in the marketing department? Thank you for your concern, General Manager. I feel everything is going great. While answering, I secretly guessed her intention for calling me here. Then I saw Veronica suddenly put on a serious face. It's like this. As you know, the economy isn't doing great right now. All departments have been under a lot of pressure lately. My heart skipped a beat. General Manager, are you telling me this because you want to fire me? Veronica quickly shook her head. You misunderstand. Actually, I called you here today because the company wants to expand into new media. What does that mean? It means the board of directors discussed it and decided to establish a new department to achieve self-produced and self-sold operations. I instantly understood. Live streaming e-commerce. Exactly. Veronica nodded and praised. You catch on quick. I'm flattered. I chuckled. Then I asked in confusion. But General Manager, you telling me all this, you aren't suggesting that I do it, are you? Veronica nodded again. Exactly. I was dumbfounded and quickly refused. I've never touched this stuff before. Besides, if you want to do live streaming e-commerce, you definitely need to hire influencers. Nobody's going to buy anything from an absolute nobody with zero fanbase like me. However, Veronica revealed a look of surprise. The company really didn't misjudge you. You pinpointed the core of the issue in a single sentence. This alone proves you are very suitable to be the head of the e-commerce department. I practically jumped out of my skin. General Manager, are you seriously not messing with me? Is the corporate world this easy to navigate now? I'm a fresh graduate with zero work experience, and I'm instantly jumping to become the head of a department? Compared to my shock and awe, Veronica leaned back, looking completely calm. It's true, and it was unanimously approved by the board of directors. Listening to Veronica start introducing the details, I simply couldn't believe it. What I didn't know was that this idea was actually initially proposed by Fiona. At first, the higher-ups thought it was absurd, but after Finance Director Fiona and Marketing Director Sterling explained the situation, everyone immediately agreed. After all, someone who could make both the old lady and the recuperating chairman personally intervene, it was clearly inappropriate to leave him as a mere grunt in the marketing department. At this point, Veronica's gaze landed on me. How about it? Have you thought it through? Does this even require thinking? I almost blurted out, I do, but on second thought, I calmed down. What if the company is facing some massive crisis, and those old geezers on the board are just looking for a scapegoat? Thinking of this, I immediately cited my lack of ability and refused again. Then I turned around and prepared to leave. Seeing this, Veronica panicked. She suddenly stood up and said, Wait! I was startled. Why is she so agitated? Does she mean if I don't agree to take over this new department, I'll be fired? Don't go! Veronica rushed over in a few steps and grabbed my hand. Don't go! I'm begging you! While speaking, she couldn't help but give my hand a couple of squeezes. His hands are quite big, and the texture is pretty nice. I inhaled a sharp breath of cold air. This aloof, high and mighty general manager with the cool older sister vibe. Is she sexually harassing me? No way. Yes, it must be an illusion. I pulled my hand back. General manager, if you have something to say, just say it. Veronica snapped out of it, her face instantly returning to normal. Don't be so quick to refuse. Veronica sat down on the sofa and casually poured me a cup of coffee. Listen to my analysis of the benefits of this job before you make a decision, okay? Since she put it that way, refusing again would be incredibly ungrateful. Seeing this, Veronica breathed a sigh of relief and immediately launched into an endless stream of details. 2.5 hours later, I slapped my thigh and finally agreed. I couldn't help it. The offer she gave was simply too much. An annual salary of $300,000 plus commission and year-end dividends. After signing the new contract, Veronica nodded in satisfaction. Excellent. Starting today, you are the manager of the live streaming department. Also, the entire 8th floor belongs to the e-commerce department. Whatever you need, just apply directly to the finance department. I still hadn't fully processed it. Did I really just get promoted? And Veronica, having completed her mission, was in a fantastic mood. All right. Go back and prepare. I felt like I was dreaming. I stood up to leave, but suddenly thought of a very serious problem. Wait a second. General manager, you just designated an office area for me, and you aren't going to manage anything else? Veronica froze. Didn't I say it? The entire department is handed over to you to manage. What else is there for me to manage? I got anxious. Right now, there's only an office space. There's no office equipment, no personnel, nothing. Veronica said without hesitation. You are the manager, so naturally you manage that. As for hiring people, just let HR know and have them recruit people. Isn't that enough? I was flabbergasted. It's that simple? The authority the company gave me seemed absurdly huge. If that's the case, then is it okay if I recruit people myself? I asked tentatively. Veronica nodded. As long as you think they are suitable and meet the company's hiring requirements, yes. Just as I wanted to say something more, Maya came in. General manager, there's a meeting at 11, it's starting soon. Seeing this, I tactfully walked out of the office. Watching my retreating back, Veronica couldn't help but sigh again. The young guys nowadays, their bodies are truly amazing. By the time I got back to the office, I was still in a state of bewilderment. Seeing me come in, Barnaby immediately perked up. You look like you've lost your soul. Did you get subjected to some general manager office roleplay? By the way, is the GM a guy or a girl? Hearing Barnaby's endless stream of dirty jokes, I just plopped down into my office chair. Barnaby sensed something was wrong. Holy crap, did I hit the nail on the head? Saying that, he came over to pull up my pants. Come, let your godfather take a look. I threw a punch at him. Get lost! Your godfather got promoted! Barnaby doubted his own ears. Promoted? Then why do you look like you just got ravaged? I glared at him, then let out a long breath and recounted everything that happened today exactly as it occurred. What did you say? Barnaby jumped up. The company created a new department, gave the whole department to you, and put you completely in charge. I nodded. Yes, right now the entire 8th floor of the company has been cleared out. I can move up there anytime. Holy crap! Barnaby let out a loud shout, startling me. Son! No! Barnaby lunged in front of me. Give me the deputy manager position, it's not too much to ask, right? With the two of us joining forces, we can definitely make a huge splash. I was in no mood to fool around with Barnaby. I pushed him away and went back to my desk. Right now, my mind was entirely filled with what I had to do next. But the more I thought about it, the more clueless I felt. I spent the entire day lethargic. Barnaby also guessed what was on my mind. After work, he took the initiative to speak up. Seeing you looking so stressed, how about we go get a drink tonight to relax? I rolled my eyes. You'd better go keep your girlfriend company. I have to hurry home to keep my wife company. Barnaby naturally didn't believe it. Son, it's one thing to trick others, but you're tricking your own bro too? I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. Okay, I'm going home to be with my wife. Then bring your wife out so we can meet her. I thought about it and said, her health isn't good. Once she gets a bit better, I'll find a chance to bring her out. Barnaby was speechless. You better actually be able to bring out a wife. I drove all the way home. I don't know why, but my desire to go home today was stronger than ever. I wanted to see Seraphina. I wanted to hold her soft, fragrant body and curl up on the sofa. That faint, sweet scent on Seraphina could dispel all my negative emotions. Soon, I arrived at the apartment complex. I bought a bouquet of small daisies at the flower shop near the entrance. Several colors of flowers clustered together, looking very pretty, and the floral scent radiating from them instantly improved my mood. After Seraphina opened the door, I handed the flowers to her. Do you like them? After saying that, I naturally wrapped my arm around her slender waist. What's for dinner tonight? I missed you so much. Seraphina's pretty face flushed. So annoying, we're still outside. We're a married couple. What does it matter? After saying that, I caught her off guard and planted a kiss on her cheek. Seraphina's face turned even redder. She pounded my chest with her small fists, then looked outside in a fluster, terrified of being seen. After going inside, I went to wash my hands. When I came out, I saw Seraphina holding bowls, serving rice. I dashed over in one stride. Didn't I tell you I'd do these chores? Your health is poor. Just focus on resting and recovering. Serapha playfully scolded. I know. I'm not a fragile vase. Do you have to be this nervous? I gave a wide grin. It's not that I'm nervous, it's that we must be careful. Otherwise, if you bump or scrape yourself, my heart will ache. Seraphina looked helpless, but her eyes were full of smiles, and her heart was even sweeter. In her memory, it seemed she had never been nervously cared for and protected like this. Everyone always told her one thing: you have to be strong, be independent, work hard to climb up, be the best. Only Kaelen guarded her like she was a precious treasure. At this time, I picked up a piece of fish belly meat. Wifey, eat more fish. It's good for your health. Seraphina blushed. I'll do it myself. But I want to feed you. I held up the chopsticks, my face full of anticipation. Wifey, just eat it. This is the tastiest part I picked specifically for you. Unable to resist me, Seraphina blushed and opened her mouth, taking the fish meat in. The fish tasted incredibly fresh and delicious. Seraphina's eyes narrowed in satisfaction, looking blissful like a little kitten. Seeing this, my heart itched and I couldn't help but say, Wifey, you're so cute. No wonder the ancients used the phrase, a beauty so stunning, she's a feast for the eyes. Seraphina's face turned red again. So annoying, just eat your food. Saying that, she picked up a piece of spare rib and placed it in my bowl. However, I showed absolutely no intention of moving my chopsticks. I just leaned forward slightly and opened my mouth. Seraphina froze, her face turning even redder. Can't you eat by yourself? How old are you, still needing to be fed? Have you no shame? I put on a matter-of-fact expression. If someone else fed me, I'd have no shame. But my wife feeding me is basic couple protocol. Besides, I already fed you, so it's your turn to feed me. I don't want to. Wifey, you eat by yourself then. Precious wifey, I'm begging you, I just won't eat if you don't feed me, okay? My deliberately whiny, coquettish voice made Seraphina feel both shy and amused. Ultimately, she picked up a piece of spare rib and held it out. I bit down on the chopsticks in one go. Seraphina gave a tug but couldn't pull them out. She instinctively looked up. As our eyes met, the air instantly became ambiguous. It was the first time Seraphina realized that when a person is shy, they can feel their entire body burning up. She could see the burning intensity in my eyes, and precisely because of this, she felt even more embarrassed. Thankfully, I knew when to stop. I let go and said with a look of pure satisfaction, food fed by wifey is the most delicious. So annoying. Seraphina was both shy and flustered. Under the table, her foot stomped right onto mine. However, this stomp didn't carry the slightest bit of deterrence. Instead, it tickled my heart. I didn't say anything, just hooked my foot around Seraphina's and refused to let go. Feeling the touch of skin against skin, Seraphina's face burned so red it looked like it could drip blood. She tried desperately to pull her foot back but was no match for me. The two of us had a secret tussle under the table. Finally, Seraphina couldn't bear it anymore. She put on a fierce expression. You annoying jerk, I can't even eat in peace. If you keep doing this, you're sleeping in the study tonight. After dinner, I cleared the dishes and went into the kitchen. Seraphina followed and stood at the door. While running the water to wash the dishes, I said, Wifey, do you just want to spend more time with me? Because I work during the day and only come back at night, so you want to be close to me right now, right? Seraphina blushed again. Nonsense. But even as her mouth denied it, her eyes remained glued to me. I quickly finished washing the dishes, then wrapped my arm around Seraphina and walked back to the living room, casually turning on the TV. A reality dating show was playing. I picked up a cherry and handed it to Seraphina. Wifey. Seraphina was engrossed in the TV, mindlessly opening her mouth to eat while saying, Kaelen, let me tell you, this show makes me so mad. This woman is totally gaslighting her husband, and that guy reeks of chauvinism, but his wife refuses to divorce him. It's totally a case of one willing to beat, the other willing to suffer. The more Seraphina spoke, the more animated she became. I held her, listening dotingly, occasionally feeding her a piece of fruit. It took a good while for Seraphina to snap back to reality. Looking at the plate in front of us, which only had 2 strawberries left, she blushed. Why aren't you eating any? I bared my teeth in a grin and leaned closer. Waiting for you to feed me. Not this again. Seraphina shot me a playful glare, but still picked up a strawberry and handed it over. I opened my mouth and enveloped both the strawberry and her fingers. With a gentle flick of my tongue, Seraphina felt like she'd been electrocuted. Her entire body instantly went soft, filled with shy panic. You're doing it again! Let me go! I dutifully released her fingers, then polished off the strawberry in a couple of bites. Then I wrapped my arms around Seraphina and kissed her. Seraphina's gasp of surprise was entirely swallowed into my mouth. After a lingering, passionate moment, I released her with measured restraint. Seraphina's cheeks were flushed pink, and she slumped in my arms, panting for breath. I instantly grew worried. Wifey, are you okay? Her poor health was precisely like this. Even slightly intense intimacy was too much for her to handle. As a result, despite being married for a while now, we still hadn't taken that final step. Seraphina didn't speak, just lifted her eyes to look at me. Those eyes, usually clear and bright, were now filled with a fiery, lingering desire. Seeing this, my heart leaped. I almost lost control. But ultimately, reason prevailed. I took a deep breath and stood up. It's getting late. I'll go run some water for you to soak your feet. Right at this moment, Seraphina grabbed hold of me. What's wrong? I turned back, slightly puzzled. Seraphina didn't speak. Instead, her hands reached up and wrapped around my neck. Then, trembling slightly, she took the initiative and kissed me. Seraphina's rare proactive move filled me with ecstatic joy, yet I still looked at her with concern. Are you sure your body is okay? Seraphina was both shy and exasperated. Don't I know my own body? That single sentence from Seraphina instantly shattered every last ounce of restraint I had been desperately holding on to. Wifey, you asked for this, I muttered, my voice hoarse. I scooped her up bridal style and carried her straight into the bedroom. The moonlight spilled through the window, casting a gentle glow on her flushed, breathtakingly beautiful face. That night I was incredibly gentle, treating her as if she were made of the most fragile glass, yet pouring every ounce of my pent-up love and longing into her. Despite my worries about her weak constitution, Seraphina bloomed under my affection like a flower receiving water after a long drought. The years of depression and the vegetative state seemed to finally melt away completely in the heat of our intertwined breaths. When I woke up the next morning, the space beside me was empty. I panicked for a split second before the bedroom door opened, and Seraphina walked in carrying a tray with breakfast. She wasn't in her wheelchair. She was walking on her own 2 feet, her face glowing with a radiant, healthy pink that I had never seen before. You're awake, she said, her voice dripping with a shy but profound sweetness. Wifey, you're walking! I jumped out of bed, completely ignoring my lack of clothing, and spun her around in a hug. Put me down, you massive idiot! She giggled, burying her face in my shoulder. The doctor said I'd be walking in half a month, but I guess a little exercise accelerated the process. Hearing my vintage babe actually crack a dirty joke made me laugh out loud. My childhood dream wasn't just realized, it was perfected. Over the next 2 weeks, my life felt like it was strapped to a rocket. At home, Seraphina and I were like 2 teenagers hopelessly in love, practically glued to each other. At work, I officially took over the e-commerce department. One Wednesday afternoon, I was sitting in my newly renovated executive office on the 8th floor. I was reviewing a promotional livestream draft, cross-referencing it with a market analysis file named video11ench.txt, when Barnaby burst through the door, panting heavily. Son, big news, the chairman is back! Barnaby gasped, grabbing my water cup and chugging it. The legendary chairman who's been Maya for months. General Manager Veronica just announced an emergency all-hands executive meeting in the main conference room. You have to go. The chairman? I blinked. I remembered that the chairman shared the exact same name as my wife, Seraphina. A bizarre suspicion that had been lingering in the back of my mind suddenly began to expand. I grabbed my suit jacket and headed to the top-floor conference room. The atmosphere was incredibly tense. Department heads were sitting rigidly in their seats. Fiona, the Iron Maiden, looked visibly nervous, her hands clasped tightly on the table. I took my seat near the front, given my new status as a department manager. The heavy mahogany doors pushed open. First came Secretary Maya, followed by General Manager Veronica, and then, walking with an elegant, commanding, and confident stride, came the chairman. She wore a pristine, tailored white business suit that accentuated her slender curves. Her hair was styled immaculately, and her aura was one of absolute, unquestionable authority. The entire room stood up in unison. Good afternoon, Chairman Vance. My jaw practically unhinged and hit the floor. My eyes bugged out so far they almost popped out of my skull. Standing at the head of the massive conference table was my delicate, easily embarrassed, home-cooked meal-eating wife, Seraphina. She swept her sharp, authoritative gaze across the room, nodding slightly. But when her eyes landed on me, that icy CEO facade cracked for a fraction of a second. A faint, almost imperceptible warmth and a mischievous glint flashed in her eyes. Well, wifey! I accidentally mumbled out loud in the dead-silent room. Fiona, who was sitting 2 seats away from me, heard it. Her eyes widened in sheer horror, and she looked like she was about to go into cardiac arrest. The pieces finally clicked together in Fiona's brain. The old lady's interference, the assigned Xiaomi SU7, my rapid promotion, the chairman's midnight furious phone call. I wasn't the chairman's sugar baby. I was her husband. Please sit, Seraphina commanded, her voice steady and professional. For the next hour, I didn't hear a single word of the corporate restructuring plan. My brain was a chaotic mess of fireworks. My wife is my boss. The company I'm working for is her company. The Xiaomi SU7. The VIP treatment. It was all her. As the meeting adjourned, Seraphina looked directly at me. Manager Kaelen, please come to my office. I need to discuss the e-commerce expansion with you. Yes, Chairman. I squeaked out, trying to maintain my professionalism while Barnaby shot me a look of pure awe from the back row. The moment the heavy doors of the chairman's office clicked shut behind us, the aloof, untouchable female CEO vanished. Seraphina leaned against her massive mahogany desk, her cheeks flushing a brilliant shade of red, looking down at her designer shoes like a child caught stealing candy. Are you mad at me? She asked softly, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't mean to hide it. I wanted to be sure you liked me, not my money. I stared at her for a long moment, then burst out laughing. I walked over, wrapped my arms around her waist, and pulled the grand chairman of Seraphina Biological Tech into a tight hug. Mad? Wifey, I am ecstatic. Do you know how much pressure I was under trying to figure out how to make enough money to support you? I kissed her forehead. Turns out my vintage babe is the ultimate sugar mommy. I really don't have to work hard anymore. Seraphina let out a breath she had been holding and playfully punched my chest. You idiot! You still have to run the e-commerce department. Yes, wifey boss, I grinned, stealing a kiss right there in the chairman's office. With the truth out in the open, our lives fell into a perfect rhythm. I was no longer just the young intern. I was the chairman's fiercely protective husband. Fiona apologized to me profusely, and I graciously let bygones be bygones. As for Linnea, she remained at the branch office, far away from my sight. However, there was still one massive looming hurdle left to cross. A month later, Seraphina's health was completely back to 100%. She looked younger, more vibrant, and happier than ever. I decided it was time to rip the band-aid off. I drove my Xiaomi SU7 back to my parents' house, with a deeply nervous Seraphina sitting in the passenger seat. She had brought bags upon bags of expensive gifts, her hands sweating nervously. Kaelen, what if Bia hates me? What if she thinks I stole her son? Seraphina panicked as we stood in front of my childhood home. I held her hand tightly. Just remember the plan, breathe. I unlocked the door and walked in. Mom, I brought my girlfriend home to meet you! My mom, Beatrice, came bustling out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron, her face beaming with joy. Finally, I've been waiting to see what kind of girl managed to. Beatrice froze. The smile slid off her face, replaced by a look of utter, mind-boggling shock. She stared at the woman standing next to me, her mouth opening and closing like a goldfish. Sarah, my mom whispered, dropping her dish towel. Seraphina, is that you? But I heard you were... Hi, Bia, Seraphina said, tears instantly welling up in her eyes. It's been a long time. Before my mom could even process that her long-lost best friend was standing in her living room looking radiant, I put my arm around Seraphina's shoulder and dropped the ultimate bomb. Mom, allow me to reintroduce her. This is Seraphina, my legally wedded wife. The silence in the room was deafening. I could practically hear the gears in my mom's brain grinding to a screeching halt, catching fire and exploding. Your wife? Beatrice's voice was dangerously low. She looked from me to Seraphina and back to me. Her eyes slowly drifted to the feather duster resting on the nearby cabinet. I immediately raised my hands in surrender and delivered the line I had been practicing for months. Wifey, remember what we talked about. Let's keep our titles separate with my mom. You call her mom, and she'll keep calling you bestie. Kaelen, I am going to murder you. My mom grabbed the feather duster and chased me around the living room while Seraphina stood there, caught between crying and laughing uncontrollably. Despite the chaotic beginning, that evening ended with the two women hugging and crying on the sofa. My mom was initially furious at the absurdity of the situation, but when she heard about what Seraphina had been through, the depression, the coma, the near-death experience, and how our bizarre marriage had literally saved her life, the anger melted into profound gratitude. You little brat? My mom sniffled, glaring at me while holding Seraphina's hand. You always said you were going to marry my best friend when you were 5. I thought you were just a stupid kid. I didn't think you'd actually pull it off. 2 years later, I stood on the balcony of our sprawling penthouse, looking out over the glittering city skyline. The evening breeze was warm and refreshing. A pair of soft arms wrapped around my waist from behind. I leaned back into the familiar, sweet embrace of my wife. What are you thinking about, Mr. Manager? Seraphina asked softly, resting her chin on my shoulder. I turned around and pulled her close. My gaze dropped to her noticeably rounded belly. The doctor had said her body needed 2 years to recover before we could even think about kids. Exactly 2 years and 1 month after she woke up, we got the greatest news of our lives. I was just thinking. I smiled, gently resting my hand on her baby bump, about how lucky I am. I went on a blind date with an 80-year-old woman and ended up with the most perfect wife, a thriving career, and a family. Seraphina smiled, her eyes reflecting the city lights and a deep, unwavering love. She leaned up and kissed me, a kiss that held the promise of a lifetime. Then you better hold on tight, little hubby, she whispered, because this vintage babe's never letting you go. I pulled her into my arms, feeling the gentle kick of our unborn child against my hand. My childhood dream had come true, but reality with Seraphina was far more beautiful than I could have ever imagined.